Check. You know what it is, man. It's the Autonomous Party podcast and mix show. Your boy Super Blaze inside the campaign mix, man. Let's do it. Come on. Shout out to the God of Green. Shout out to Mac Ether. What up? BSB through the campaign. You know what it is, man. Let's go.
I hear.
Go ahead and hit that like button for me real quick. Subscribe, share. You know what it is, man. Come on, let's do it.
I hear Brenda's got a baby, but Brenda's barely got a brain. A damn shame, the girl can hardly spell her name. That's not our problem, that's up to Brenda's family. Well, let me show you how it affects our whole community. Now, Brenda really never knew her moms, and her dad was a junkie putting death into his arms. It's sad, cause I bet Brenda doesn't even know. Just cause you're in the ghetto doesn't mean you can't grow. But oh, that's a thought, my own revelation. Do whatever it takes to resist the temptation. Brenda got herself a boyfriend. Her boyfriend was her cousin, now let's watch the joy. And she tried to hide her pregnancy from a family who really didn't care to see or give a damn if she went out and had a church of kids. As long as when the check came, they got first dibs. Now Brenda's belly's getting bigger, but no one seems to notice any change in her figure. She's 12 years old and she's having a baby. In love with the molester who's sexing her crazy. And your aunt also thinks that he'll be with her forever, and dreams of a world with the two of them are together. Whatever, he left her and she had the baby solo. She had it on the bathroom floor and didn't know, so she didn't know what to throw away and what to keep. She wrapped the baby up and threw him in the trash heap. I guess she thought she'd get away, wouldn't hear the cries. She didn't realize how much the little baby had her eyes. Now the baby's in the trash ballin'. Mama can't help her, but it hurts to hear her.
There go that chat I was looking for.
Wants to run away. Mama say you're making me lose pay, and social work is here every day.
What up, Shonda?
Just gotta make
love on purpose. What up?
Can't go to a family, they won't let us stay. No money.
Shout to Sherry.
Said that she couldn't.
Peace, Fred. Peace. What up?
Crack, but end up
Crypto Fred.
So now what's next? It ain't nothing left to sell.
See Christopher. What up?
That's a way of leaving hell. It's paying the rent, so she really can't complain. Prostitute fam, slang. And Brenda's her name, she's got it, baby.
Shout to the Chief Dish. It's your jam, huh? You know what it is, man. Super Blaze campaign mix. I always throw it back first before we move forward. You know what I mean? Just keep it locked inside the mix, man. You know what it is. Hit like that like button real quick. Come on.
Say the blacker the better, the sweeter the juice. I say the darker the flesh and the deeper the roots. I give my holler to my sisters on welfare. 2 podcasts, if don't nobody else care. So please don't cry, dry your eyes, never let up. Forgive, but don't forget, girl, keep your head up. And when he tells you you ain't nothing, don't believe him. And if you can't learn to love you, you should leave him. Cause sister, you don't need. And I ain't trying to gas you up, I just call them how I see. You know what makes me unhappy? That when brothers make babies and leave a young mother to be unhappy. And since we all came from a woman, got our name from a woman, and I came from a woman. I wonder why we take from our women, why we rape our women, do we hate our women? I think it's time to kill for our women, time to heal our women, be real to our women. And if we don't, we'll have a race of babies that will hate the ladies that make the babies. Fire! Say the blacker the better. The sweeter the juice, I say the darker the flesh, and the deeper the roots. I give a holler to my sisters on welfare, to my kids, if don't nobody else care. But please don't cry, dry your eyes, never let up. Forgive, but don't forget, girl, keep your head up. And when he tells you you ain't nothing, don't believe him. And if you can't learn to love you, you should leave him. Cause sister, you don't need. And I ain't trying to gas you up, I just call him how I see. You know what makes me unhappy? That when brothers make babies and leave a young mother to be a pastor. And since we all came from a woman, got our name from a woman, and I came from a woman. I wonder why we take from our women, why we rape our women, do we hate our women? I think it's time to kill for our women, time to heal our women, be real to our women. And if we don't, we'll have a race of babies that will hate the ladies that make the babies. And since a man can't make one, he has no right to tell a woman when and where to create one. So will the real men get up? I know you're fed up, ladies. Keep getting up.
Yeah, you listen to Super Ladies. Easy. Got it up. Ooh, child, things get right.
Keep your head up.
Ooh, child, things are gonna get easy. Got it up. Ooh, child, things get right.
Hey yo, I remember Mom used to sing to me. He had me feeling like black was the thing.
I appreciate the love, you know what I mean? Shout out to T. Christopher out with the kids, you know what it is.
We always had enough. I was up about my curfew and broke the rules, went with the local crew and had a smoke or two. I realized Mama really paid the price. She nearly gave her life to raise me right. And all I had to give her was my pipe dream of how I rock the mic and make it to the right screen. I'm trying to make $1 out of 15 cents. It's hard to be the chick and still pay your rent. And in the end, it seems I'm heading for the pen. I try to find my friends, but they're blowing in the wind. You know it's funny when it rains, it pours. They got money for wars, but can't feed the poor. Said it ain't no hope for the youth, and the truth is it ain't no hope for the future. And then they wonder why we crazy. I blame my mother for turning my brother into a crack baby. We ain't meant to survive cause it's a setup, and even though we better, keep your head up.
Yeah, you listen to Super Ladies.
Keep your head up.
Ooh, child, things are gonna get easy.
This is a mix.
Bang, bang, bang.
Yeah, you listen to Super Blade. Let's go.
Hey man, you a little sucker for love, word up. I should have seen you was trouble right from the start. Taught me so many lessons, how not to mess with broken hearts. So many questions. When this began, we was the perfect match. Perhaps we had some problems, but we working at it. And now the arguments are getting loud. I wanna stay, but I can't help from walking out. Let's throw it away. Just take my hand and understand. If you could see, I never planned to be a man. It just wasn't me. But now I'm searching for commitment and other arms. I wanna shelter you from harm. Don't be alarmed. Your attitude was the cause. You got me stressing. Soon as I open up the door with your jealous questions. Like where can I be? You're killing me with your jealousy. Now my ambitions to be free, I can't breathe. Cause soon as I leave, it's like a trap. I hear you calling me to come back.
What
I'm a
you
sucker for
won't
love.
You try everything, but you don't get what you won't do. You won't do. You tried everything, but you don't get UNITY, that's a unity. UNITY, love a black man from
Who you calling?
UNITY, we gotta let them know. UNITY, that's the one here. UNITY, we gotta let them know. Black woman, you ain't a bitch, you're a hoe. UNITY, UNITY, that's a unity.
Yeah, you listen to Super Blade. Let's go.
Who you calling the bitch?
Shout out to my matriarchs out there, you know what it is.
UNITY, that's the one here. here we go.
Let him know.
You ain't a bitch, you're a hoe. Here we go. Here we go. You gotta let them know. You ain't a bitch, you're a hoe. Instinct leads me to another flow. Every time I hear a brother call a girl a bitch, you're a hoe. Trying to make a sister feel low. You know all of that got to go. Now everybody knows there's exceptions to this rule. I don't be getting mad when we playing, it's cool. But don't you be calling me out my name. I bring rap to those who disrespect me like a dame. That's why I'm talking. One day I was walking down the block. I had my cut off shorts on, right? Cause it was crazy hot. I walked past these dudes when they passed me. One of them felt my booty, he was nasty. I turned around red, somebody was catching a rat. Then the little one said,
yeah, me, bitch.
And laughed. Since he was with his boys, he tried to break fly. I punched him dead in his eyes. Said, who you calling a bitch? U-N-I-T-Y. You gotta let him know. U-N-I-T-Y. That's the one. Here we go. U-N-I-T-Y. You gotta let him know. You ain't a bitch, you're a hoe. Here we go. U-N-I-T-Y. You gotta let him know. U-N-I-T-Y. That's the one. Here we go. U-N-I-T-Y. You gotta let him know. You ain't a bitch, you're a hoe. I hit the bottom, there ain't nowhere else to go but up. Bad days at work give you an attitude and you a rough. And take it out on me, but that's about enough. You put your hands on me again, I put your ass in handcuffs. I guess I fell so deep in love, I grew dependency. I was too blind to see just how it was affecting me. All that I knew is you was all the man I had. And I was scared to let you go, even though you treated me bad. But I don't wanna see my kids see me getting beat down by daddy smacking mommy all around. You say I'm nothing without you, but I'm nothing with you. A man don't really love you if he hits you. This is my notice to the tool. I'm not taking it no more. I'm not your personal whore. That's not what I'm here for. Ain't nothing good gon' come to you till you do right by me. Brother, you ain't sitting in the bitch. U-N-I-T-Y. You gotta let them know. U-N-I-T-Y. That's the one. Here we go. U-N-I-T-Y. You gotta let them know. You ain't a bitch, you're a hoe. Here we go. U-N-I-T-Y. You gotta let them know. U-N-I-T-Y. That's the one. Here we go. U-N-I-T-Y. You gotta let them know. You ain't a bitch, you're a hoe. What's going on in your mind is what I ask you. But like, yo, you don't hear me though. You wear a rag around your head and you call yourself a gangster bitch. Now that you saw Apache's video, I saw you wildin', acting like a fool. I peeped you out the window, jumping girls after school. But where did all of this come from? A minute ago, you wasn't heard and nobody ever heard of you. Now you a wannabe. You barely know your ABCs. Please. There's plenty of people out there with triggers ready to pull it while you trying to jump in front of the bullet. Young lady, and real bad girls are the silent type. Ain't none of this worth getting your face sliced. Cause that's what happened to your homegirl, right? Walking with nobody. She got to wear that for life. Who you calling a bitch? U-N-I-T-Y. You gotta let them know. U-N-I-T-Y. That's the one. Here we go. U-N-I-T-Y. You gotta let them know. You ain't a bitch, you're a hoe. Here we go. U-N-I-T-Y.
Yes. Sounds from the 90s, you know what I mean? It was a little different back then. They call themselves the bad bitches now. Part of my French, you know what it is though, you know what I mean? Just educating, you know? Campaign Make Super Blaze inside the... You know what it is, man, let's get it in. Things have changed, bro, like a lot, you know what I mean? Like, I grew up a little different, you know what I mean? Like, these kids today, let me tell you about them.
Y'all mythological niggas is comical. The astronomical is coming through like the flu bombing. And then bombing in your crew too. With the musical, mystical, magical, you know how I do. With word attack skills and vocabulary too. Comprehension of this edition is all brand new. You're through. I'm interplanetary like Doctor Who. So who? Wanna get tripped on, word is bone. I'm kicking rounds to the AM vote just wrong. Now Quincy, but I'm back on the block and not selling crack. I'm coming in with the fat funk flows and tracks. So what you saying, black? With all like yakety yak. My order facts can't be beat with facts. I'm saying I eat everything up on the menu and bend you and send you swaying to be continued. The most beautifulest thing in this world is just like that. I get it, yeah. The most beautifulest thing in this world is just like that. I get it, yeah. The most beautifulest thing in this world is just like that. I get it, yeah. The most beautifulest thing in this world is just like that. I get it, yeah. Spur in a moment, opponents are suspects. Caught up in the resuscitation, rain and the text. At least I speak my concepts free. The it's me, sun sheet, funk figures of speech. Now that shit is in the open, I'm open, poking, scoping, waiting for the next nigga to get open on and break them down like an organic compound. That's the way of the world as the earth goes round. Now, how the fuck you sound? I represent my clique like a 4 pound. You better pack your levodopa medication for the shaking meditation from the earthquake and shit that we be making. Never faking, I get down for my crown clown. Shaking the membrane of Encyclopedia Brown. Speaking of funk in any throwdown. Why you sustain the sound of it? But the most beautifulest thing in this world is just like that. I give it ya. The most beautifulest thing in this world is just like that. I get it ya. The most beautifulest thing in this world is just like that. I get it ya. The most beautifulest thing in this world is just like that.
Let's go.
Turn up the radio, better yet the phonograph. And
Just digging in the crates, you know what I mean?
don't know the half. I'm not a legend, I'm real and actual. Bite my rhymes, I get mad and come after you. I don't front or pretend, cause that's imaginary. I get funky with the use of
That's
a
Lord Finesse right here.
I'm more deadlier than a bottle of Sana. When I dig in my brain to say a fly rhyme, I might
That's
bust
like James Brown right there. Right?
something. Get the party pumping, yo, that ain't nothing. So don't bore me. I've been naughty. Even as a kid, people said, look at Shorty. Back in the days, I had much attention. Speak of competition, man, listen. Even then, I could have been a funky star. At the age of 12, I was rhyming on a monkey boss. A little kid with the art of poetry. Nice for my age, but nobody noticed me. Nowadays, I tell it like it is. That makes my skill different from her or his. I sport my skills on an FM frequency, letting people know you better not sleep on me. I'm known as a smooth, cool brother, a funky technician. Call me a
This is it. Go from the fly kid. The ice mic is back with the high bit. Suckers you lost, the players you're not. Gangsters you ain't, you faint punk if you ever heard a gunshot. Yo, the pusher, the player, the pimp, gangster, the hustler, high roller, dead press folder. It's cold lamping like a black king on the throne. Evilly, turn up the microphone so I can ill and break on the rolling tape. Another album to make, great. Islam turn the bass, kick up a bit. Hype the snare, now I got a place to sit and ride the track like a black neck in his lack. Hit the corner slow where the girls are at and kick game the way it should be done. How you gonna drop science? You're dumb, stupid, ignorant. Don't even talk to me. At school you drop math, science, and history. And then you get on the mic and try to act smart. But let me tell you one thing, you got hard to perpetrate your bait. So just wait till the press shove a mic in your face. Or you meet Boogie Down or Chuck D, Stetson Sonic or the Big Daddy. And they ask you about the game you claim you got. Drop science now, why not? You start to sweat and fret, it gets hot. How'd you get into this spot? You played yourself. Yo, you played yourself. I'm no authority, but I know the DEAL when it comes to dealing with the females. What you got, they want. Cash is what they need. Slip sucker and they'll break you with speed. But you meet a freak, you try to turn her out. Spending money's what I'm talking about. But you pull out, your pockets got blew out. And after the date, no boots, you got threw out. Mad and shook cause your duckers got took. Call her up, phone's off the hook. But who told you to front and flaunt your grip? You can't buy no relationship, you played yourself. Yo, homeboy, you played yourself. I'm in the MC game, a lot of MCs front, and for the money they sell out stunts. But they claim that they're rich and that they keep cash. Yo, let me straighten this out fast. 200,000 records sold, and these brothers start yelling about gold. You better double that, then double that again. And still don't get sued, my friend. You think you made it, you're just a lucky man. Guess who controls your destiny? Fans. But you diss them cause you think you're a star. That attitude is rude, you won't get far. Cause they're turning you quick, you drop like a brick. Unemployment's where you'll sit. No friends cause you dissed them too. No money, no crew. You're through. You played yourself. That's right, you played yourself.
New York streets were killers that walk like Pistol Pete and Pappy Mason. Gave the young boys admiration. Prince from Queens and Fritz from Harlem, street legends. The drugs kept the hood from starving. Pushing cars, Nicky Bars was the 70s, but there's a long list of high-profile celebrities worldwide on the thorough side of things. Live as kings, some died. One guy, one time, one day grabs me as I'm about to blast heat, 40 side of burning. I turn well, he asks me, "What you up to? The cops gon' bust you." I was a teen drunk off brew, stumbled. I wondered if God sent him, cause 2 squad cars entered the block and looked at us. I ain't flinched when they watched. I took it upstairs, the bathroom mirror, brushed my hair, staring at a young disciple. I almost gave my life to what the dice do. Yeah, man, throwing them bones. Hoping my ace get his case thrown. His girl ain't wait for him. She in the world straight hoeing. Why he looking at centerfolds? A pretty girl showing they little cooch. Gangsters don't die, he's living proof. The DA who tried him was lying. The white dude killed his mother during the case. Hung jury, now the DA is being replaced. Pre-trial hearing is over, it's real for the soldier. Walks in the courtroom, the look in his eyes is wild. Triple homicide, I sit in the back aisle. I wanna crack a smile when I see him. Throw up a fist for black power, cause all we want is his freedom. He grab a court officer's gun and started squeezing. Then he grabbed the judge, screams out, "Nobody leaving, everybody
Get down, get down, get down, get down. Get
everybody."
Get down, get down, get down, get down.
Some niggas fuck their enemies in their ass when they catch them. Weird ass niggas who dangerous, so don't test them. They make you disappear. This a year that I won't forget. Soul CDs, double platinum at Mo execs. Southern niggas, independent label, real killers. Know the business, ran Tennessee for years, now they chillin'. They had the coke game, something crazy. Soul music out the trunk of their car, that shit amazed me. Put me on the heroin blunts, Sherm or something. Took a puff, what the fuck, I turned and punched them. Southern niggas ain't slow, nigga tried to play me. I left from around them dudes, they cool but they crazy. Now I'm back around the old school that raised me. New York gangsters, we lounging out in LA. See, a dude wrote my dog from Pelican Bay. The letter say, "Nas, I got your back, the fools don't play." I rode with some Crips down to a Crenshaw funeral. Never saw so many men slaughtered and I knew the whole responsible. The nigga's still alive in the hospital. Midnight, they crept in his room and shot the doctor too. See my cousins in the gang, bugging and things. He plugged me with a dame who was half Mexicano. Gave the ass up, I'm a Mac Daddy soprano. She passed me the indigo, but the imbecile should've never tippy-toed. Thought my eyes were closed, open in the hotel room though. The little goons in, but I moved in the manner. On some Jet Li shit, I let the hammers blow, wet 3 kids. See, honey thought I had something to do with all the drama, cause I was with a crew that had a people killed. Called up my cousin, told him I ain't fucking with you. He responded cool, but told me, "Y'all here, this how motherfuckers
Get down, get down, get down, get down.
Hey, baby, your hips is getting big. Now you're getting thin, you don't care about your wig. Now, Wooly got a pair of my sneakers. Wonder where he got him, cause I hit him behind my speakers. The object of your affection is the T-type connection. What makes it clear you love to smoke the rules. The crackheads and crackmen, they come up to my door. I don't smoke jump, so what they knocking for? Kids love to feel on your feds, got a seal on your street time is limited to days. On your crack card, they're getting only agencies to come back. Damn, it's a shame you're the mighty queen of ours with a wide-eyed look and a rotten tooth smile. Used to walk with a swagger, now you simply stagger from one spot on to the next spot, on to the next spot, on to the next. Bitch, get a job, for me you won't rob, cause I smack you with a hose filled with sand. Now give that to the crack man. You was fly once, now you're losing all your fronts. Started off light, only took a woolly blunts, but now you get a stripe, graduated to the pipe. Took a long pull, hype, yeah. Head crack, you smoked up that stack in a minute, you was back. Hey, yo, ex, wasn't that your girl? Yeah, I had to drop her cause she caught on the plastic and I just couldn't stop her.
Slow down, slow down.
I need this girl to chop a clap to this. She's always make a clap to this. Make a clap to this.
Yeah, you listen to
Make a clap to this. I came in the door, I said it before. I never let the mic magnetize me no more, but it's biting me, fighting me, inviting me to rhyme. I can't hold it back. I'm looking for the line, taking off my coat, clearing my throat. The rhyme will be kicking in till I hit my last note. My mind remains to find all kind of ideas. Self-esteem makes it seem like a thought took years to build, but still say a rhyme after the next one. Prepared, never scared, I'll just bless one. And you know that I'm the solo whiz, so Eric B, make him clap to this. 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 I don't bug out of chill or be acting ill. No tricks in 86, it's time to build. Eric be easy on the cut, no mistakes allowed. Cause to me, MC means move the crowd. I made it easy to dance to this. But can you detect what's coming next from the flex of the wrist? Say indeed, then I'll proceed. Cause my man made a mix. If you need, he won't need no band-aid to fix your fingertips. So I'm rhyming too, there's no rhymes left. I hurry up because the cut'll make him bleed to death. But he's kicking it, cause it ain't no half-stepping. The party is live, the rhyme can't be kept inside of me. Erupting just like a volcano. It ain't the everyday style or the same old rhyme, cause I'm better than the rest of them. Every B is on the cut, and my name is Rakim. Nasty. Make a clap to this. Make a clap to this.
Let's get up, let's get down. Roll with the hardcore funk, the hardcore sound. Let's get with this macadocious funk material, so simple. Wanna rock with the instrumental. Who am I?
Indeed, the green-eyed bandit.
Control my career so I can never get stranded. But the rest are getting brand new, being changed up their style from jeans to suits and thinking about a pop record. Something made for the station, for a whole new relationship of a new type of scene to go platinum and clock mad green, aka a sellout. The rap definition. Get off that boy, change your mission. Come back around the block. Pump color me bad to the tick-tock. Let them know your logo. It's not a black thing. My background sing for the crossover. Crossover.
Yeah, you listening to Super Play, let's go.
The importance of a year, we're back to work. I took time off, all the rappers got jerked. Due to the fact they whacking their tracks. Have to go back and stack cause they lack the ingredients. EPMD and scratch for that. Yo, I'm the hip-hopper, plus the soul shopper. Down with MD, yes, the microphone doctor. One Rex, the other the swords, and if you think you're ready to mess, kill the noise. We don't play when it's time to slay. I get a cut from my homie, yo, then I lay back and mac and all the rhymes I pack and wait for a sucker to jump and then attack.
Well, I'm known to be the master in the MC field. No respect in 87, 88, Chanel, cause I produce and get loose. When it's time to perform, whack a sucker like Mop and Glow.
That's what it was.
Back the second time, but on a different assignment to do a sub and new jack. Who need to rap in alignment, cause I'm the cream in the crop when it's time to do a show. Girlies on my job for my dope intro. As I glance at the double, K microphone wrecker. Turn on my callers, say your mic checker to the ladies and all party goers. Some call me Pete, then other slow flower. Brothers on my jock for the way I hold a piece of steel. So what you saying? So what you saying? MCs out there, you better stand clear. EPMD is a world premiere. From New York, straight talk, America's best. Cold Wild Long Island is where we rest.
The style of the rap makes your hands clap. Take care of yourself because the lines are strapped. They mean business, no time for play. If you buy a line, they blow you away. The more you bite, your body gets hot. Don't get too close because you might get shot. Knowing that my rhyme like a poisonous rat. Don't play dumb, boy, you're smarter than that.
That's my thing. rhythmatic style keeps the rhyme flowing. The brain's already biting without you knowing. Can't understand why your body's getting weaker. Then you realize that the voice from the speaker, the mind become delirious. Situation serious, don't get ill, go and get curious.
Enough about that, let's get on to something better. And if it gets warm, take off the hot sweater. And if you want some water, I get you a cup. And if you don't want it, then burn the hell up. I'm telling you now, boy, you ain't jack. Talking much junk, and Mr. T is your back, but he's not. So don't act cute, cause if we do you in hot pursuit,
it's my thing.
A little throwback, something, you know what I mean? Campaign make Super Blaze through the campaign. The Autonomous Party Podcast, make sure
as the song goes on, you will notice a change. To where
hit that like button for real.
My name,
subscribe, share.
It's famous.
Share.
Cool, and keep your distance. When I walk into the party, girls are screaming at me. I park my mic and my hose, and then I yell freeze. Music, please.
Bang, bang, bang.
Where was I? Oh yes, say a deaf rhyme and I plumb the rest. Every time I rock a rhyme, I can tell that you like it. I listen to song like
I keep it fresher than the next bitch. No need for you to ever sweat the next bitch. With speed, I make the best bitch see the exit. Indeed, you gotta know you're thoroughly respected. By me, you get the keys to the Lexus. But no driving, got your own 96 something. The ride and keep gas tighter than Versace. That's why you gotta watch your friends, you got to watch me. They connive and shit, the first chance to crack the bank. They try me, all they get is 50 cent francs. And papayas from the village to the valley. I'm the killer on your belly, no question. Have more black chicks between my sheets than necessary. They say sex is a weapon, so when I shoot, meet your death in less than 8 seconds. Still pounding in my afterlife, laughing. My shit is tight. Who you asking, right?
Ain't no nigga like the one I got.
No one can fuck you better.
Sleeps around, but he gives me a lot.
Keep you in diamonds and leather.
Friends that tell me I should leave you alone.
Tell the freaks to find a man that they own. Man that they own. Yeah.
Yeah, you listening to Super Blaze. Let's go.
DJ Super Blaze. Super Blaze. Is in the mix.
Bang, 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 bang.
We're grooving like that tonight. Come on, let's go.
We like the breeze, float straight out of our lids. Them, they got boo bodies, hard rock Brooklyn kids. Us floor rush when the DJ booming classics. You freak the crew on the fattest hip hop record. He touched the kinks and sinks into the sounds. She frequents deep, fatter joints called undergrounds. Our funk zooms like we hit the Mary Jane. They flock to booms, man, boogie had to change. Who freaks the clips with mad amount percussion? Where kinky hair goes to unthought of dimensions. Why is it so fly? Cause hip hop kept some drama. When butterfly rock the light, you sway boomers. What by the cut? We push it off the corner. How was the buzz entire hip hop era? Was fresh and crack since we started saying Audi. Cause funks made fat from right beneath my hood. The pooper of the styles like miles and shit. Like 60s funky worms with waves and perms. Just sending junky rhythms right down your block. We beat to rap, what key beat to lock. But I'm cool like that. 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 I'm cool.
We beat the chocolates, taps on my raps. She innovates after sweet and cat naps. He at the funk club with the vibrate. Them they be crazy down with the 5 link. It can't kick a plan, then a crowd burst. Me, I be digging it with the bug burst. Us, we be freaking till dawn, peace and I. He gets a stranger smile, so I say hi. Who understood? Yeah, understood the plans. Him heard of it and put it to his hands. What I just flip, let borders get loose. How to consume all the beaches like juice. If it's the shit, we'll lift it off the plastic. The babes will go spastic. Hip hop is a classic. Pimp play a shot, it don't matter. I'm fatter, axe butter, how I zone.
Man, Cleopatra Jones.
And I'm chill like that. 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 I'm chill.
Gotta say, rest in peace, Coolio. Rest in peace, Coolio. Let's go. Another fallen soldier. You know what it is, man.
Everybody listen up, cause I'm about to get my speak on. Fools be tripping when it's time to get they freak on. Running around jam, putting it down without no protection for the erection. When it's time for selection, what's your direction? Before you make a choice, you better do some inspection. If you don't know my aim and don't know my game, then let me explain that. I used to sleep with Mark and Mark slept with T. And Tina slept with Javier the first time he seen a Javier slept with Lupe and Lupe slept with Rob. Cause he was rolling on beats and had a good job. Rob slept with Lisa who slept with Steven. Steve was positive, HIV. What started off as a plan, ended up in the plot. You better cool your off cause it's too damn hot.
Oh, it's too hot, too hot, lady. Gotta run for shelter, gotta run for shade. It's too hot, too hot, homie. Gotta make some sense from this mess that we made.
Yeah, you listen to
Super Blaze. Super Blaze is in the mix.
Everybody listen up, cause I'm about to get my speak on. Fools be tripping when it's time to get they freak on. Running around jam, putting it down without no protection for the erection. When it's time for selection, what's your direction? Before you make a choice, you better do some inspection. If you don't know my aim and don't know my game, then let me explain that. I used to sleep with Mark and Mark slept with T. And Tina slept with Javier the first time he seen a Javier slept with Lupe and Lupe slept with Rob. Cause he was rolling on beats and had a good job. Rob slept with Lisa who slept with Steven. Steve was positive, HIV. What started off as a plan, ended up in the plot. You better cool your off cause it's too damn hot.
Oh, it's too hot, too hot, lady. Gotta run for shelter, gotta run for shade. It's too hot, homie. Gotta make some sense from this mess that we made.
You're doing everything mama told you not to do. Now you're trying to walk away cause you know it's true. Your sister can't explain and your brother's ashamed to admit you both had the same last name. I don't have to ask you where you been, cause the matches in your purse say Holiday Inn. A mind is a terrible thing to waste, that was the slogan. But now it's 95 minutes, don't forget the Trojan. Explain it to a mama before somebody get her. Gotta hip her to the game of the school talking. Love is a word seldom but often heard. Latex, safe sex, you better learn to get hip to the facts before you react or end up in the box on your back. Sometimes you ask for what you want and get what you got. Don't get caught up in the plot. It's too damn hot.
Oh, it's too hot, too hot, lady. Gotta run for shelter, gotta run for shade. It's too hot, homie. Gotta make some sense from this mess that we made.
Another day in the city and no one a pity. Even though we did our duty, things are still looking. Everybody in a pack stack trying to make some tracks. Walking in the rain, but they ain't got no act. Understand that we living in the 90s, no. Nuclear waste, cannibalism, and pistol smoke. Sex, lies, videotape, and rape. Just a little bump and grind, conceal your fate. We need to do something drastic. It's getting tragic, and if you don't believe me, then go ask Maggie. Everybody and their mama preaching abstinence fees. Kids ain't checking for abstinence. So put a condom in their hand and hope it don't bust. Another victim of the lust and God we trust. What started off as a plan ended up in a flop. Water can't cool it off cause it's too damn hot.
It's too hot. Come on.
Too hot.
You know what it is, man. Super Blaze in the campaign mix.
Gotta run for shade. It's too hot, too
I don't like I talk over my thing. I gotta turn it off. You know what I mean?
make some sense from this
You know what it is, man. You know.
we made. It's too hot,
Rest in peace, Coolio, for real.
hot, lady.
That was the end of my my old school throwback campaign mix. So if you guys didn't even know, inside our city this weekend,
This mess that we made.
it's the carnival weekend. You know what I mean?
Too hot, lady. Gotta
Coordination to the indigenous people weekend. Also, shout out to the Maroons, all the Caribbean people right now. They're getting it in. You know what I mean? Even though it's raining, they still getting it in. So I'm gonna hit you out with a few little soca joint real quick and some indigenous joints. You know what I mean? You know what it is. Tongue tied around here. Come on. find that cue. Let's go.
Hello, 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 hello. Hello, 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 hello. Yeah. She had the thing I love. Where she from, I don't know. She wears some go low. Pick up the place like a dojo. So what you say, what you say, what you say? Pretty girl, when you come my way. What you do, what you do, what you do? I must get through. Girl, roll up now, you show me that wine. Turn around, girl, don't be shy. Hello, 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 hello. Yeah, so girl, I love how the way you blow my mind. Hold me tight and bring down wine. Hello, 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 hello. Yeah, hey. Are you ready? Are you ready for it? Are you ready? Are you ready for it? You want give me that? No hold back. Wind it up, right there. Front to the back. No long chat. Just come to me. I'll give you that sweet type of love. Sweet type of love. Come give me that sweet type of love. Real type of love. Hold me, darling. Cause one night we jamming. Yeah. Say she sweet like a mango. She play the thing like a lando. Them other girl them don't know how she rap me thing like a go-go. Dad, so what you say, what you say, what you say? Sexy girl, when you come my way. What you do, what you do, what you do? I must get through. Girl, roll up now, you show me that wine. Turn around, girl, don't be shy. Hello, 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 hello. Yeah, so girl, I love how the way you blow my mind. Hold me tight and bring down wine.
Through the stars and many moons to find you, baby. The sugar on your skin, the sweetest melanin, yeah. See when you step out into the light and your body looking right. No constellation in the sky could ever take a shine. I'll travel a million miles just to look up on your smile, baby. Look up to the clouds right now. Say it to me. Around for the entire night. See, baby, while I'm close, I'll be here by your side. You're doing things to me that I cannot deny. The way you're looking, girl, you are so certified. Cut me back one time when you give me that fast wine, fast wine, fast wine. Fast wine, fast wine, fast wine. Take my boat to the dockside and anchor down by the bedside. Give me that fast wine, fast wine, fast wine. Give me some.
Cause she getting on, cause she in a heat when I turn the pressure on. Oh gosh, turn it on, oh gosh. Oh, cause she getting on, cause she in a heat, she want to jump in the water. Oh gosh, just hit the right spot. I want to give it to ya, baby. I want to give it to ya, baby. I want to give it to ya, baby. I want to give it to ya. I want to give it to ya, baby. I want to give it to ya, honey. I want to give it to ya, sweetheart. I want to give it to ya.
Something I need, yeah. You give me something I bleed.
Yeah, you listening
you
to
give me something I crave. Oh, I really need it too. I really wanna feel great, bro. So let me have my way now. No one ever gonna leave, cause I'm so invested in you. Cause I really feel a vibe every time you set the right tongue. And nobody like this, man, it's nothing like this, and it's nothing like you. Nothing and nobody like you. And every single time we touch, no one ever wanna stop, because I always wanna let you know that I love you so much, it's nobody like you. Nothing and nobody like you. So make me ball out. Long time is a overdue. Long time is a overdue. Make me ball out. I come, I'll be sure now. Bound to come back, please don't fall off. Don't break my heart, like the moon now. And the star shine, give me all now. Not a fraction, get to the point now. So just full stop, build the last piece, and may I stop. Sir, I really feel a vibe every time I set me right down. And nobody like this, and nobody like you. Nothing and nobody like you. So me tell them, and every single time we touch, no one ever wanna stop. Cause I wanna let you know that I love you so much. And it's nobody like you. Let's me all up. Long time is a overdue. Long time is a overdue. Let's me all up. Long time is a overdue. Long time is a overdue. Bend over, practice for the work, gal brace, position, gymnast, love the way that you whine and jiggle.
Come on, ladies, come on.
Over, practice for the work, gal.
I know y'all out there getting there.
Gymnast, in front the mirror, gal, take a flick. Turn round, look back, take a pic. Whining skill, show them you have it. You master all of the tricks. Drop down flat and make the body split. Tick tock, how are you tick tock? Wine to the bass. Keep whining your way.
Every gal,
bend over, practice for the work. Gal brace, position, gymnast, love the way that you whine.
every gal just stick.
Bend over,
Every gal just stuck.
for the work.
Every gal just stick.
Position, gymnast.
Every gal just stick it and attack 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 it and go down, go down, go down. Every gal just stick it and attack 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 it and go down, go down, go down. Go back it up on people, man. Before you get boop in your back. 70 it takes you touch to clap. But we get the girls with the fat. Well, my girl, I don't care with that. For we know how to bend your back. And you know just how to tick tock. Every girl, boom. Every girl just tick it and attack 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 it and go down, go down, go down. Every girl just tick it and attack 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 it and go down, go down, go down. Tick tock and bend your back and just go down flat. My girl, when you sit on him not there, come on, wine on that. Wind down to the ground. Wind down and just long out your tongue. My girl, it's not easy. My girl, it's not easy. Boom. Every girl just tick it and attack 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 it.
Yeah, man, that's what it is. You know what I mean?
Go down. Go down.
If you've never been to the carnival before,
every girl just tick it and attack it.
That's only a little small taste of what it is.
And attack it and attack it and attack.
Just the music.
Go down. Go down. Go down.
I'm telling you, it get kind of crazy out there sometime. Not sometime, all the time. I seen footage from Brooklyn Carnival the other day, man. It was crazy. That Labor Day affair. Shout out to my Brooklyn family out there, you know what I mean? On the Parkway. And all of that. Super Blaze campaign mix. You know what it is, man. Just a little culture tonight. As usual. Let's go.
Jerusalem, Ikayalami, Gilondoloze, Ambenami, Zungangishilana, Jerusalem, Ikayalami, Gilondoloze, Ambenami, Zungangishilana. Oh, you are I'm not perfect. I came from ruthless times. As a juvenile. Look into my eyes, see pain and sacrifice. What's goes on my mind? Trying to survive. Tomaka emo wuru, oti wuru si wuru. Emi won wa mi ni goro, tojuko oju owuru. Ni eni teji sori, time si mi soli. Láti ìkọ̀rọ̀ sí gbòòrò, náà tún ìkọ̀rọ̀ ojú o.
Ìlọ́nà ló ṣe, ìlọ́nà ló ṣe, ìlọ́nà ló ṣe. nangishilana dawo yami ayikholana buso wami awukholana ilondoloze zuhambe nami dawo yami ayikholana buso wami awukholana ilondoloze zuhambe nami.
Heartbeat, the sound of the bass drum. Come with your best shot, I'll take one. Rumble in the jungle, I'm a lion. Stand up for your Machine Nation. Fire! Unamalgamated. Heartbeat, the sound of the bass drum. Come with your best shot, I'll take one. Rumble in the jungle, I'm a lion. Stand up for your Machine Nation. Hey, for these generations, we the people lost but not forgotten. Tribal rivalry is the problem. One love, the key for what we locked in. Don't call me a doctor, but I will be your medicine man. We're all from the melting pot, so everybody in the crowd is a Native American. Like me, can't you see? The enemy is a L-I-E. One family tree, we all. The truth is like smoking Joe, and so far,
the bigger they come, the harder they fall. Bring on the giant, I'm ready to brawl. No giving up, flowing in my veins. Like a champion, I feel that I will never surrender. Born with the soul of a warrior, I will remain a contender. Born with the soul of a warrior, I will. Hey y'all, hey y'all, hey y'all, hey, 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 hey y'all, hey y'all, hey y'all. I rule my dominion. I'm part Asian, Indian, Dominican. Back to Hindu, Dravidian, so Mexicano loco, man. Yes. Egyptian fits my description. Yes. I'm training hard for the mission. Yes. I'm a country boy from the south, and mama said knock you out. I'm in the ring like. The bigger they come, the harder they fall. Bring on the giant, I'm ready to brawl. No giving up, flowing in my veins. Like a champion, I feel that I will never surrender. Born with the soul of a warrior, I will remain a contender. Born with the soul of a warrior, I will. If you're down for one love and one people, let me hear you say, oh, hey y'all, hey y'all, hey, 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 hey. One finger in the air, hey y'all, hey y'all. Somebody wanna y'all see me break it down now. Watch me break it down now. Watch me break it down. Somebody wanna y'all see me break it down.
We gon' die every day. Swear we gon' die every day. They say Jesus gon' save us. Well, I know we die if we wait. I know we die if we can't. They tell us we black, but we ain't. Aboriginal, native, yeah, we gon' die every day. Cause we don't know where we came. We been here, lived here, open borders, got deported, fought for rights. Kidnapped, bitch slapped, blacked out, covered up, washed white. Drugged up, slugged up, beat bread, left for dead, fuck your life. It's all a plan, kill your man, take your land, slave your kids, rape your wife. Why y'all look so mad if all this shit I say is true? Why y'all look so mad if all this shit happened to you? White man quick to tell you, you was a slave nothing before. But he himself only been free since 1840. Don't record it, I'm an ancient Egyptian from Atlantis, head straight for Canada, that's Israel. Nothing fake about me, no capping rapping, I just fed the ink and I'm digital. No caveman, I'm original. Kentucky fried, extra crispy, wear a lot of gold cause my family history. I'm the guy to know, I bring death to history. But we gon' die every day. They say Jesus gon' save us. Well, I know we die if we wait. I know we die if we can't. They tell us we black, but we ain't. Aboriginal, native, yeah, we gon' die every day.
Ever since a youngin', I've been running, getting to the cake. Dog, you ain't 100, this 100, let me demonstrate. If she ain't got brains, then I ain't tryna penetrate. And if you ain't a stand-up newbie, you can get your dinner.
Turn up.
I know that real shit, dog, you benefit.
Turn up.
on the Kennedy. Now we on the interstate. Be a rookie in the game, but I've been a great. And we about autonomy, dog. We ain't trying to integrate.
No sir, no sir, no sir. Yeah. Yeah, pull that hook up one more time. Pull that back up a minute. Run that back up. Hey, before we get started tonight. That's that joint right there. Let go.
Ever since a youngin', I've been running, getting to the cake. Dog, you ain't 100, this 100. Let me demonstrate. If she ain't got brains, then I ain't tryna penetrate. And if you ain't a stand-up need you could get your dinner ate. I ain't buying all that real shit. Dog, you benefit. To go on a dinner date. Now we on the interstate. Might be a rookie in the game, but I've been a great. And we about autonomy, dog. We ain't tryna integrate.
Pull up.
Man, we ain't tryna integrate.
Pull up.
Bang, bang, bang.
Pull up. Man, Blaze, boy, set a fire. Carnival style. Wish I had a torch right now. Burn fire to the thing, you heard? Burn. You heard? We in the studio. We live. MusicMediaLounge.com, you dig? It was just Carnival weekend, and Indigenous people's holiday at the same time. It used to be Columbus Day, but they're gonna make it for us now. We gotta recognize who we is. So we recognize this weekend Carnival, a whole bunch of things going on. You know what I mean? So wherever you at, you celebrating that in your culture or way in your Indigenous people fashion. You know what I'm saying? If you dressing up with the feathers this weekend and all the different fashions, you know what I'm saying? Or you know what I mean? Just chilling in your backyard barbecuing, you dig? Whatever it might be. Shout out to you, you dig? We got this panel discussion tonight, the Aboriginal panel discussion. Got a couple topics we're gonna be talking about. Obviously, I got some guests pulling up on me. You know what I'm saying? Matter of fact, one calling me right now. Yo. Yeah, you got the link. Hold on. Yeah, so we see we working out somebody trying to get in now. That's why we were trying to procrastinate a little bit to get everybody in the lineup, you know what I'm saying, in the back office so we could pull up, you know what I mean, go straight into it. You know what I mean? And I see I got two of them in the back right now. Okay, we almost ready to get the panel up here. You know what I mean? And shout out to the panel ahead of time that's pulling up tonight. Some couldn't make it because, again, it's Indigenous holiday. So we know people celebrating and doing activities throughout the different states. You know what I mean? Shout out to Philly. Shout out my man, Tavis Sanders, NDU.org. You know what I mean? What they doing up there in Philly this weekend. You know what I mean? Obviously, that's what's up. You know what I mean? Obviously, down here we got Carnival. And shout out to Miss Sherry. She just came from, a cultural situation up there in the Carolinas with different tribes and stuff. So we gonna, let y'all know people doing things in this time frame. We waking up doing the cultural thing. That's a beautiful thing. You dig? I'm trying to work out this man getting on here real quick though. And don't forget, you see the Cash App on there when it says Super Play because it would mix. Maybe it's a song you want to request. We always tell you can give a little love to the DJ for the campaign mix. You dig, Blaze? Yes, sir. Shout out to you. You know what I mean? Make sure you see that. So if you ever want to show a little love to the DJ, you most definitely can. You dig? Show some love. At the end of the day, too, if you hit that like button on the way in, share button, all that good stuff for the discussion tonight, let your people know what's going on, what's happening. So we're going to go over some things. It might get a little heated. Some people might not agree with some of the stuff that's about to be said, but we're going to try to be as factual as possible in the discussion that we're having on these topics. You know what I'm saying? You ready, guy? Shout out to Guy the Green on the boards. Shout out to Baron P in the building. Your boy Matt Gaither, I'm your host. Some Grand Maroon in this shit. You're just having a good time vibing. Okay, we're gonna pull up. We can wait for pull up. Okay, we almost there. We got 3 out of the 4. What's up, Ish? Peace. Can you hear me? Can y'all hear me, Mike? Check.
Peace and blessings to you, Brother Mac. How you doing? Peace to the Timeless Party.
Right.
How everybody doing?
Doing all right, man. Thank you for pulling up on the party tonight for this discussion, man.
Oh, yeah. Them sounds was banging right there. Yeah, that was real hot. I like that.
Appreciate that, man. Rob, what's up, Rob? What's popping?
What's good, family? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you loud and clear.
Can you hear me?
Yes,
All
sir.
right. Happy Indigenous Peoples Weekend, brother. You know, to everybody,
Indeed.
to all of us.
Indeed.
You know what I'm saying?
Indeed.
What's good?
You know, it's this weekend, so you know we got a lot of bills going on, but this weekend hit, and I'm like, this the weekend where I got to go ahead and give attention to the weekend. You know what I mean? It just take precedence. You know what I mean? Culturally speaking. Shoot, what's up, Professor? What's up with you tonight, man?
Peace. What's up, fam?
Peace to you. How you doing?
I'm doing good.
I appreciate you for sliding on us tonight too, man. Got different people in every different area. You know, I think Issue out there in Nevada, in the Vegas.
That's right. Yep, here in Vegas.
You know what I mean? I know, Rob, you in Georgia, right? If I'm right, you live from Georgia?
Yes, sir. Atlanta, GA, brother.
Atlanta is right in the building. Ish, you in New York, right? Am I right? Ish, it's a ish. See, don't get me wrong tonight. It's a ish. I'm sorry, Professor. Are you in New York?
Oh, nah, Oklahoma.
Oklahoma? Okay, but you sound like you from up north, so I just took that.
Yeah, I'm a New Yorker, but I left the city a while ago.
I got it. See, once you got that accent though, it's gonna travel with you, and you're just gonna get hit with that no matter what. Don't be mad at me. You know what I'm saying?
And outside of New York, nobody understands it. They think you're aggressive.
Shit, that's real. I ain't even from New York. I was born in Virginia, and my people all from the South. You know what I'm saying? South for me, where he from, Georgia area. And goddamn it, they say I talk aggressive just because I was born in Virginia. And I'm like, they be like, you from New York? I'm like, no, I was born in Virginia, but I was never in New York in my life as far as being raised. It's all good though. It's all good though. You know, I try to keep it kosher. I had to learn to tone myself down, you know. I learned, you know, fight too at the same time. Yeah. Shoot, I'm waiting for my man Chito to pull up too out of Louisiana. You know what I mean? Give him a shout out. He should be here soon for this discussion. And again, shout out to Tavis and Michael Hampton that also want to kind of get involved in this conversation, and others too. I just, you know, this last minute thing kind of spurred to a couple of things I've heard on platforms say, you know what, this weekend I want to have a topic conversation about certain things dealing with our people. You know what I mean? And you know, Ish, you've been dealing with some political things. We're gonna get to that. I'm gonna let you present that in a minute. You know what I'm saying? And obviously, me and Professor were in a clubhouse room last week or so, and some folk were saying some things that's addressed with the topic of, you know, ancient Egypt and Jerusalem. You know what I mean? And that was interesting. There's Chito. What's up? Can you hear me, Chito?
I hear you loud and clear. You can hear me?
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. I hear you. Thank you for joining this, man. Shout out to you, by the way. You know what I mean?
For sure. What's happening, everybody on the panel? Was popping.
Peace.
Peace and blessings, fam.
And I wanted to be diverse. I wanted this discussion to be diverse. I did this with the individuals I wanted to get on the panel discussion. Because I don't want no echo chamber, right? I think all you men would stand on what you stand on in your historical narratives to stand on the topics that we're going to be speaking on. You know what I mean? Sometimes you get people that might just go with the flow. You know what I mean? But we could be respectable from our positions and not disrespect each other on the panel, agreeing to disagree on certain topics. And it's something I felt it needed to be discussed in a public manner where gentlemen can do this. You know what I mean? All right. I just want to make sure I say that first before we get passionate. So everybody knows in the audience, in the chat, you know what I mean? We might be passionate about our, you know what I mean, thoughts on things, but there's no disrespect to nobody on the panel or any position that's anybody in the chat actually too. Just going to, you know, try to clear some things up on some things we hear. You know what I mean? So I want to hear some first topic of the night. Matter of fact, I want to play a joint from Malcolm. You know, Malcolm, I always he Aboriginal, right? I'm telling you, I got to give it to this man in the 60s because he said it back then. And I think, you know what I mean, it fits a resonance with me, especially the autonomous party, with trying to be autonomous, as his position was for us Aboriginal people at that time coming forward. Now, when it comes to tribal and national and different situations of our genealogies and the origin of where they came from, that's a whole nother thing with your tree, right? Genealogy plays a role to that. Can we get that, Malcolm X? And we're going right after that, we're going to go straight to the topics tonight. Just want to give Malcolm a shout out.
Why should the black man in America concern himself, since we've been away from the African continent for 400 years, 300 or 400 years? Why should we concern ourselves? What impact does what happened to them have upon us? Number one, first you have to realize that up until 1959, Africa was dominated by the colonial powers, and by the colonial powers of Europe having complete control over Africa, they projected the image of Africa negatively. They projected Africa always in a negative light. Jungles, savages, cannibals, nothing civilized. And naturally, it was so negative until it was negative to you and me. And you and I began to hate it. We didn't want anybody to tell us anything about Africa, and much less call us an African. And in hating Africa and hating the African, we ended up even hating ourselves without even realizing it. Because you can't hate the roots of a tree and not hate the tree. You can't hate your origin and not end up hating yourself. You can't hate Africa and not hate yourself. And you show me one of these people over here who have been thoroughly brainwashed, who has a negative attitude toward Africa, and I'll show you one that has a negative attitude toward himself. You can't have a negative attitude toward yourself, a positive attitude toward yourself, and a negative attitude toward Africa at the same time. To the same degree that your attitude, that your understanding of an attitude toward Africa becomes positive, you'll find that your understanding of and your attitude toward yourself will also become positive. And this is what the white man knows. So they very skillfully made you and me hate our African identity, our African characteristics. And you know yourself that we have been a people who hated our African characteristics. We hated our hair. We hated the shape of our nose. We wanted one of those long dog-like noses, you know. Yeah. We hated the color of our skin. Hated the blood of Africa that was in our veins. And in hating our features and our skin and our blood, why we had to end up hating ourselves. And we hated ourselves. Our color became to us a chain. We felt that it was holding us back. Our color became to us like a prison, which we felt was keeping us confined, not letting us go this way or that way. And we felt that all of these restrictions were based solely upon our color, and the psychological reaction to that would have to be that as long as we felt imprisoned or chained or trapped by black skin, black features, and black blood, that skin and those features and that blood that was holding us back automatically had to become hateful to us. And it became hateful to us. It made us feel inferior. It made us feel inadequate. It made us feel helpless. And when we fell victim to this feeling of inadequacy or inferiority or helplessness, we turned to somebody else to show us the way. We didn't have confidence in another black man to show us the way, or black people to show us the way. In those days, we didn't. We didn't think a black man could do anything but play some horn, you know, some sounds, and make you happy with some songs. And in that way, but in serious things, where our food, clothing, and shelter was concerned, and our education was concerned, we turned to the man. We never thought in terms of bringing these things into existence for ourselves. We never thought in terms of doing things for ourselves because we felt helpless. And what made us feel helpless was our hatred for ourselves. One of the things that made the Black Muslim movement grow was its emphasis upon things African. This was the secret to the growth of the Black Muslim movement. African blood, African origin, African culture, African ties. And you'd be surprised. We discovered that deep within the subconscious of the black man in this country, he's still more African than he is American. He thinks that he's more American than African because the man is jiving him and the man is brainwashing him every day, telling him, you're an American, you're an American. Man, how could you think you're an American and you haven't ever had any kind of American treat over here? You have never. 10 men can be sitting at a table eating, you know, dining. And I can come and sit down where they're dining. They're dining. I got a plate in front of me, but nothing is on it. Because all of us are sitting at the same table, are all of us diners? I'm not a diner until you let me dine. Then I become a diner. Just being at the table with others who are dining doesn't make me a diner. And this is what you got to get in your head here in this country. Just because you're in this country doesn't make you an American. And no, you got to go farther than that before you can become an American. You got to enjoy the fruits of Americanism. And you haven't enjoyed those fruits. You've enjoyed the thorns. You've enjoyed the thistles, but you have not enjoyed the fruits. No, sir. So I point these things out, brothers and sisters, so that you and I will know the importance in 1965 of being in complete unity with each other, harmony with each other, and not letting the man maneuver us into fighting one another. I say that again, that I'm not a racist. I don't believe in any form of segregation or anything like that. I'm for the brotherhood of everybody, but I don't believe in forcing brotherhood upon people who don't want it. As long as we practice brotherhood among ourselves, and then others who want to practice brotherhood with us, we practice it with them also. We're for that. But I don't think that we should run around trying to love somebody who doesn't love us. Thank you.
Peace, peace, peace. So I had to get that in because I think even if in 65, right? Because after 65, in 68, right before, everything's happened with the man, he did travel a little bit. He came around, he started saying Aboriginal. You know what I'm saying? He said that after that speech right there, because they gave you a time frame, 65. Ish, what you think about that? I just wanted to ask everybody what you thought about what he said back then in 1965 real quick tonight, because of how he's talking, how people are fighting today on Clubhouse. You know what I mean? What you thought about that?
Yeah, I think Brother Malcolm was true to his message as far as representing the Nation of Islam and the overall philosophy of it. As I'm looking at it right now, he's looking at it from a perspective and a viewpoint of that African identity, and he's counteracting the hatred, what's been instilled in the people. So in speaking the language and stuff, he was definitely representing the Honorable Elijah Muhammad properly in 65.
I appreciate you giving your honest opinion. Professor Issa, I'm coming down like this.
Peace, everybody. In retrospect on Malcolm X, when he was with the Nation of Islam, I think he was at his best afterwards. I think he established some things for others to come afterwards and build off of. He was a Pan-Africanist. And
right.
As we look at today, maybe at that time, Pan-Africanism might have went somewhere if the people in this country, who are Americans, the original Americans, had they established a provisional government in order to link government to government with African governments. That never happened. He was assassinated, and a lot of the leaders that came afterwards were assassinated or jailed. So the whole Pan-African concept today in 2022, I think, is a dead end. That, he was talking about the corporate state of America that's controlled by the European descendants of colonizers, but the just solely people who's been here for centuries before Columbus came over here. Most of the people on the panel, I believe, is descendants in some way or shape or form of those people who's already here, even if we're mixed with people who came afterwards. So I think from that perspective, the words of Malcolm have to be taken for the context that he put them in. At one point, he did said that people here were Aborigines, or I think he used Aborigines, not Aboriginals. But as far as the Pan-African concept today in 2022, I wouldn't agree with him, only because there hasn't been a provisional government set up, and with most people are still asleep. You got, I think they say about 45 million so-called black people, and maybe a few million others. A lot of them are not what we call politically astute. They're still caught up in a system that was established by the corporate American state. So that's my opinion on it.
Okay, Rob, what's your thoughts on that, man? Real quick, not real quick. Take your time and speak your thoughts.
Hey, bro. Thinking about Malcolm X, like both of the brothers just said, for the era that he was speaking for, he was talking about Africa and Africans. Really, when I think of that from that era, it's just people talking about black folks or the so-called Negroes. So, coming out of school, the thought of all people came from Africa, because that was that train of thought at that period of time. I wonder how he would have felt about the kind of information that we discuss nowadays. You know what I mean? The kind of information that, the kind of information that we have right now. Because, back then it was just going on, what he learned in school, and the school system taught you what they taught you. You know what I mean? So I don't think it's anything wrong with what he said. I just understand that some of the ways that he thought at that period of time was based off of what he knew. You don't know what you don't know. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So if he had the information and had the kind of documentation and knew about all the architect, all the stuff that we know and discuss today, his thought might have been a little more broad than just to say African. But I don't think there's anything wrong with him saying African, other than we know better than that now. It's not just African; it's global.
Right.
So that's my input on
I appreciate that. Pa, what's up, man? What's your thoughts on it?
it.
All right, I'm going against the wave.
That's what I want.
From me knowing, dealing with the Nation of Islam, in their lessons, they spoke about the Aboriginal people over here supposed to be in the land of the wilderness, because they said this supposed to be the poor part of the planet Earth. You know what I'm saying? But we know that the Americas was not the poor planet, part of the planet Earth. You know what I'm saying? And they know they had the Aboriginals over here. So, I mean, the information was already there before he even said, because if I'm not mistaken, was in the lessons and everything created in the 1930s with the Nation of Islam?
20s.
1930s.
10s.
They say late 20s.
Late 20s,
late
1930s. Yeah, so they knew about the Aborigines, you know what I'm saying? But their main focus was basically talking about the Asiatic black man, But we know, for those who actually studied Moorish science, that Noble Drew Ali said about the Asiatic, but somebody came along and put the Asiatic black man. So I that's some things that you want to raise an eyebrow to, you know what I'm saying? But
You say
anyway,
Asiatic, huh? Asiatic. I like how you said Asiatic. Because that goes against Africa, right, y'all? I mean, Asia is a place. Like, that's a region. I mean, I always point to Asia. Did y'all ever catch that back in the day? I mean, go ahead, though, Pop. Go ahead. Finish your thought. My fault.
So I mean, if Noble Drew Ali said, "Come y'all Asiatics," and then then you had those that came after him say Asiatic black man. You know what Noble Drew Ali said about there was no black man or no Ethiopian or wherever that was taught in the Moorish science teachings. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
But to speak about the Aborigines, you know what I'm saying? Which once again, that was in the Nation of Islam's teaching when they said about those that was in the poor planet of the earth. You know what I'm saying? So, that shouldn't have been anything new in the 1960s. That's like 30 years after the Nation of Islam, because you're in the 1930s, and then he came in 1965. So that's 35 years after Elijah Muhammad, which he still got to sit under the feet of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. You know what I'm saying? But at his time and everything, yes, he knew, but certain things he wasn't privy to say, because remember, they put him under a gag order, and then after he broke away from the Nation of Islam, that's when he started speaking.
I heard some stuff about that too, since you said that. I mean, there's some things out there. And we this panel discussion ain't about him, but I just wanted, I played it. Y'all hear? I wanted to hear y'all thoughts real quick about it. You know what I'm
So
saying?
yeah, that was good that he said it at that time, but did he elaborate more and expounded more on it?
He did.
You know what I'm saying?
He did, though. Right. I think his evolution didn't get to his peak, to be honest with y'all. Like you said, he died. He got killed. You know what I'm saying? I think
he got
went and seen
assassinated.
some things. By the time 1968, when he started to say Aboriginal, we don't really get to see the evolution of that situation. Does everybody agree with that before we move on? Did we, when we hear him say Aboriginal, do we not think that that's when he's evolving, but we don't get to see the evolution of his evolution with that terminology for us?
He didn't get to fully study. He only got so far before his time, before he clocked out.
Right.
If he had more time to study, he might have got a little deeper.
If I could add on to that, Honorable Elijah Muhammad, A Message to the Black Man in America, and one of the chapters, he calls so-called black people Aborigines in that book. Also, in Malcolm X was assassinated. Dr. Martin Luther King was assassinated too when he started going down that road. When he's talking about the blank check and this is your own land.
Exiled in your own land.
Yeah. So he was assassinated too. So both of them giants really never got to really fully develop that aspect of their teachings.
Well, I wouldn't say that Martin Luther King was assassinated. I wouldn't say that because Brother Malcolm X, he already did the video talking about the bourgeoisie. You know what I'm saying? Talking about the 6 people who was actually paid almost $1 million a piece. You know, so that's a whole nother thing right there. So
Yeah, hold on.
I mean, if you was paid $1 million to take over the grassroots movement, right, by John F. Kennedy and the Carlyle Group and all that there, I wouldn't say that's assassination. I say you knew what you was getting. Can I curse on YouTube? No, I can't.
We here now.
He knew
We live.
he knew he was getting his gluteus maximus into. So I wouldn't say it was assassination.
Okay, that's you got your shoot. However the case might be, I mean, he got murdered. I mean, he was not.
Yeah, he got
didn't
murdered.
kill himself. Okay, we gonna say it, keep it simple. Ish, what you thoughts before we go on to the first topic outside of this?
Yeah, I would definitely say that, Malcolm wasn't complete with his journey. He was killed in 1965. So by him, this was, the last year of his life. Yeah, he was killed in 1965. But, in that, he did kind of mention that having a seat at the table doesn't make you a diner. The analogy is actually quite brilliant. He's very good with his analogies. And in doing that, what he's really explaining is that you're not applying your rights as a citizen to sit there and say what you have as far as being included, as far as what your identity is. He's really telling you that you think that you're a part of this system, or you think that you're an equal citizen, but you're not. So he's explaining that he's not, that there's still work to do. And I think that's really ultimately the steps that he was taking in bringing in a broader view. His meetings at the United Nations, you could just tell by the tone of what he was doing, but his mission was cut short, unfortunately.
Since you said that, I'm glad you corrected me, because sometimes I there's a lot of dates we deal with, so I ain't gonna act like I'm always perfect. I said 68. You just corrected me. You said 65. That is when Malcolm X.
That's no problem. Yeah, King got killed in 68. Yeah, that's no problem. Because I was like 1 year old when he got killed.
I'll be messing up. You know what I mean? So don't mind me. You just told your age at the same time, but it's cool though. Peace to you. You know what I mean? Getting older, brother. Your birthday just passed. You just had a birthday, ain't it?
I did. Just made 55 this week. Yep.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Shout out to you. You're strong.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
No pressure. So at the same time, now we're gonna come back around to the topics for the night, because it's really one to just because how Malcolm said Aboriginal. You see, I wasn't being biased. I played a clip where he's talking about Africans, right? So you just said 65, same year, right? So it's like we're seeing Aboriginal being used, we're seeing African being used, right? So it's now the Aboriginal conversation about America being the ancient old world. I want to go there first. I want to ask you all your opinions on this topic of the ancient old world and people using ancient Egypt as this placeholder. I mean, I know we've all read documentation, from Masonic documentation to Rosicrucian documentation. You know what I mean? So I'm not going to hide nothing when it comes to this competition, because this is where people are getting it from my understanding, unless they're getting it from somewhere else. You know what I mean? If someone has something different, please let me know. You know what I mean? Because I know this was something attributed to. But still, with the sources being shown and I've gone through, you're getting terms and people are saying, oh, this is ancient Egypt. You know what I mean? This is where Jerusalem is. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, geographically, I know there's some maps even put out there, but we ain't really like correlating the history with the same situation in these journeys of these people that, are we dealing with the book historically to understand what region they're talking about them in? Or are we just saying the book's just a make-believe book to where, okay, it could have happened anywhere on the planet? You know what I'm saying? So really, I wanted to ask first, Ish, then we're gonna go back down. You know what I'm saying? So Ish, what's your thoughts on ancient Egypt being in the Americas?
I think you'll find some correlations of some things as far as, of course, we know like the oldest mummies, are here from this land here, so how the Egyptians got it, well, doesn't matter how they got it after the Americas. You have the structures that predate, pyramid structures over there, you have them over here. Regarding the term Egypt, of course, that's a Greek term. Of course, the archaeology and anthropology takes us older than those terms that are being used over there. So it's really not going to apply. I think there was an exchange that took place when you do think about things like the cocaine mummies that you find over there, when you know that something's indigenous over here. So there was some type of an ancient exchange of knowledge and information that took place. But I would not say per se that, this is ancient Egypt. I think the correlations that you do find are just geographical, and you might find some things that are kind of similar. But no, I don't find any kind of basis of calling this, quote unquote, ancient Egypt. I think there's a lot of things here that predate what you call Egypt. And I do think that we were the predecessor in many things on this land here. That's my take on it, sir.
I appreciate that. Issa, I'm going to let you go ahead and come next, and then Rob, and then Pop.
Yeah, I kind of concur with Ishmael. Is people use Egypt as a placeholder because this evidence it was a great civilization, but the Americas is distinct. But I want to preface by saying I do subscribe to a theory that at one point in time, an ancient civilization was intertwined worldwide. We have the Canary Currents on the Atlantic Ocean, and we have Pacific Currents that take you from like Hawaii and Polynesian Islands that you'll make it over here to South America. So as far as trade was concerned, and we're talking about sailing on boats for trade purposes, I think there was international trade going on at the time in ancient civilizations. To say I won't say Egypt was it's not ancient Egypt. I don't subscribe to that. Were there travelers from Egypt that made it over here? I believe I've seen some evidence that's possible, but those could have just been like merchants coming over, set up a little merchant base. But I would say that the civilization of the Americas was unique to the Americas, and I haven't seen a great deal of evidence to say that it was foreign dominated at that point in time. I think it was its own civilization that had trade with other civilizations across the world. And I'm speaking in terms of 12, maybe 15,000, 12,000 BCE until not too long before the coming of Columbus.
Okay. Rob, you next.
Well, I have to say, all of the base culture of ancient Kemet that we call in Egypt, I would definitely think that it started here because we have it all and it's older. And, not to mention the fact that not only do we have it and it's older, we have more of it. Even over there, they have temples of people that came from here to there. I mean, my man mentioned the cocaine mummies. Like, that is all evidence that yes, we did have a global network because Teotihuacan and Giza and the Cheyenne pyramids over in China, all of the Belt of Orion, they all, that's not an accident. You know what I'm saying? So that lets you know somebody with some real science put this together. You know what I mean? It wasn't an accident. It's not just America and Egypt and Africa. It's in Asia. And I bet you if they could really study Antarctica and other parts of the planet, they just won't tell us about. It's bigger than that. You know what I mean? So it seems like we will be the oldest, though. I have to be honest. All of our stuff seems to be older. Whatever name they was using, whatever name they was calling it. What's that book? Oh, man, what's that book? I know some of y'all probably read it. When the Rocks Cry Out. Oh boy, did a good job. He was, he's really into the Bible. Yeah, he's really into the Bible and Christianity. I'm not religious, so only part about it that I cared about was the artifacts and the structures. And I have to say, a lot of what he said in that book made sense. Like Peru being ancient Jerusalem, and they was talking about Columbus coming here looking to take Jerusalem back. You know what I mean? And when you start talking about places like Peru, like nothing on this planet is older than anything in Peru, man. Peru is the oldest everywhere. Like they can't even tell you how old Peru is. They can't tell you how it was built, who built it. and there ain't no other place on the planet as old or as detailed and hard as that, you know. So yeah, man, I think the base for the ancient Kemet or ancient Egypt probably started here, you know, whatever name we want to call it. I think that the origin of the culture came from right here.
Okay, bet. Pa.
Well, I'll say this, right? And like I said earlier today with the prelude before the show, there's no way you're going to tell me that you're going to build a monolithic structure that's gigantic and then go to Africa and build a small ass pyramid. Things don't go like that. We have a saying, either you go big or you go to fuck home. So why you would build something large and then go and build something small? I wouldn't. No. And then you brought up Horace Butler. Dealing with that, if you was to deal with the biblioheliotext, they said that dealing with the Egyptians, or who became known as Mizraim or the Mizraite, right? But we know that dealing with the papyrus of Ani, they say they came from the mountain of the moon, right? Which is down there by Uganda and Kenya. So if that's where they say the origin of the birthplace were, and you go through Ethiopia, Nubia, Sudan, and then Egypt, but y'all forgetting about the pyramids that's in Nubia. You know, and those pyramids is not the pyramids of the Americas. See, a grand architect don't never change his design. You know what I'm saying? The design is still the same. When you go and you look in South America, you'll see that all of those pyramids have step casings. Every last one of them. And a matter of fact, like I said before that, dealing with the mounds, right? You can look at the mound that's right there in St. Louis, right? And you can see how that mound plateau is made when you have a flat top and then you have the tiki on top of that. So that predated the pyramids down there in Mexico or South America, because now you have mounds, just like my cousin Turtle said, you know, when you're dealing with Levanta, right? You don't have no pyramid down there because that's marshy land, and you're not gonna have no heavy ass stones sitting on marshy land because that shit was fucking sink. You know, so to say that, you know, that they was the ones that taught the Egyptians, I have to disagree with that. Because even with their masonry is totally different from the South American masonry.
Yo, Pa, since you said that, hold on. Since you said that, right? I remember, matter of fact, it's the first time I met you. We was where? Louisiana, Poverty Point, correct? Mm-hmm. Isn't that the first time I met you physically? I met you at a powwow for the Washington. Mm-hmm. How long ago was this? How long ago was this?
That was in 2010.
2010. That's right. So remind me of my dates. You know what I'm saying? So you know, brother Joe, we went to the campus. LSU was on the campus doing archaeology and everything at Poverty Point.
Right? No, that was Morehead. That was Morehead University out of Minnesota.
Okay, thank you. Whoever was on, they were on there doing the archaeology while we were there, right? They Brother Joe, the Empress's son, said that this was the first masonry school over here where Poverty Point was.
Go ahead.
And when he said that, it was interesting because, you know, you got the mound that's right there is a bird mound that we went to. It's not no regular mound. It's an effigy. It's literally right. It's literally an effigy. People think you're standing on a regular little hilltop. No, you're sitting on top of a effigy, like how you would stand on top of a serpent mound or something. And it's the snake in the ground in Ohio. You know what I mean? And you don't even know it. It's crazy. I just wanted to like that's predating Egypt and Kemet as well, correct? those effigy mounds of the bird and the serpent being made out of the earth.
And it predates the pyramids down there in South America too.
Yeah, North America, Mississippi, right?
No, I'm talking about down there in South America.
I'm saying, but the Mississippi area where the mounds are in Louisiana and all that area is older than what we're talking about in Mexico. That's what I'm saying. Like in the all right, it goes from north to south in this situation. You know what I mean? So with that being said, from what I learned from back then, these people kind of confirmed that back when I seen it, and I went to Louisiana and showed that. I was like, oh, okay, I get it now, because when I figured out what I was standing on top of, it's not like going to one of those mounds that you just see look like a hill. You feel me? This is a bird mound they are excavating from. Now where the stadium is the Gulf of Mexico. So this whole situation now is like, oh, wait a second, you got to think differently of this whole area when you understand that archaeology and what they're doing. So when people say that this is Jerusalem, I'm like, so how would Poverty Point fit into the Jerusalem narrative or the Egyptian narrative?
It doesn't.
Like when this is predating all of that. Why aren't these people going to Poverty Point if they are out of Jerusalem or Egypt? Because that was like, I don't understand how that could even make sense. I'll just be trying to understand that. Could people be like, go ahead.
Hey,
I just want to make sure I put
can
that
I
out.
interject real fast?
Go ahead, Rob. We having a conversation about the topic.
I mean, part of what you just said. Well, first thing, when I brought up Horace Butler, he said Peru was Jerusalem. That's South America. But now when we're talking about these pyramids, their dating of the pyramids can't be accurate. And the reason why I'm saying that is based off of the pyramid that's underwater by Cuba. And they're saying that whoever built that would have had to build it 100,000 years ago. And that is nowhere near as big as Teotihuacan, Giza, or the Cheyenne Pyramid. So these pyramids are really a lot older than the dates that they're giving us. Now, so when you say the mounds, and no doubt the mounds are old and ancient and everything, but we can't really, I mean, if we're going to base it off what they told us, then yeah, the mounds are older, because the mounds are supposed to be a couple thousand years older than the pyramids. But if we go off of what's logical, if we got underwater pyramids in the ocean, and that's not the only one, that's just the one over here. We got one off the coast of Africa and one off the coast of Asia too. Man, we don't have the real dates for these pyramids. And these pyramids are they're energy centers, especially these big ones like Teotihuacan and Giza. These ain't just pyramids. You know what I'm saying? They even today, they still put off a certain amount of electricity to this day up the whole East Coast, Atlantic coast, and of Americas. So, we gotta be careful with those dates, y'all. Like, we all listen to, what they say things are, but you also got to do a little logical thinking too. You know what I'm saying? And that's all I wanted to jump in on.
Okay.
Well, dealing with tribal.
Hold on, Paul. Before you do that, I want to make sure everybody get their piece in. Ish, is anything you want to say about what you're hearing right now? Everybody get involved in this conversation.
I did see a message there, Brother TurtleGang would like to join us.
Oh, he's coming.
I would still like to have an explanation of how the cocaine mummies existed, if there was no exchange that took place.
Right, I got you. We're going to get into all this. I seen it in the chat.
It was definitely an
exchange. I seen him earlier.
Yeah.
I seen him earlier talking with Pa. So we're going to definitely invite that. I don't want it to be an echo chamber. I want this conversation to be in that manner diverse for us to really exchange this information this way, dealing with these indigenous different groups of people. So
were there any other theories of how that took place is my question.
I'm still open. That's why I'm not going to act like I have a understanding of where the exchange of, because it has to be ancient. You know what I'm saying? In my mind, it has to be ancient. It's obviously previous to 15th century AD. You know what I mean? I mean, we know that much. You know what I mean? So somebody's doing something, and we know the pyramids are older than just even in the time frame of what we would call the ADs. You know what I mean? Before Christ was born, either. You know what I mean? So those pyramids and everything that's being built from that time frame and the exchange that had to be happening for that time frame, in my opinion. So, you know what I mean? That's how in my logic of it. You know what I'm saying? Now, how I can say it happened, I can't tell you that. I don't know. Because how did they get it? If like you said, if the flower plant cocaine is from here, right? If it's natural to here, how they get it over there, right? Is the question. And I don't know. It has to be something. It can't just magically appear unless they had it over there and we don't know about it. Somebody got to be saying something to me, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely indigenous to the Americas, absolutely. And it did
All right,
walk
so I want
over
to make
there.
sure I ain't tripping.
Right,
Paul,
right.
Paul, what were you about to say?
All right, brother Ishmael. Maybe I can clarify and answer your question. If you've been a friend of mine since 2012. I don't know what happened. My Facebook page was getting closed and cut off and everything, but I actually spoke about that. And I even showed the video where they showed the Mayan going to Egypt and they had a Mayan calendar in one of the Egyptian temples. So in order for them to get the cocaine, remember the priests in them was the ones that was responsible for the cocaine. Okay, that's what they use to stuff the American mummies with. And not only that, they also use tar, right, to solidify the body as well after they go ahead on and stuff it. So for that priest from the Mayan went over there in exchange with the priests of Egypt. Just anybody just couldn't get cocaine like talking about it because that was in the hands of the priest. So yes, it was exchange.
Can you give me a time frame, Pa, since you are explaining that? Can you give us a
That time frame, when you looking at it, you are looking at the time right around Zorza, around Emperor Zorza time. I mean, King Zorza, the pharaoh, around Zorza time.
What dynasty is that? I ain't gonna front.
I forgot what dynasty that was, but it was an early dynasty. That was an early dynasty.
Okay.
Yeah, shout out to that Uber service by the Mayans. Shout out to them doing them deliveries door to door.
Yeah, they was you know the Mayan, the Colombians. You heard me? The modern day Colombians.
Door dashing, you know what I'm saying?
You know what I'm saying?
How you need
come
it,
on, Tony. Come on.
I'm
yeah,
coming.
you know.
But for real,
and everybody was like, whoa. Because cocaine is medicine, you know what I'm saying? And the priests and it was medicine men. So that's what because they wore leopard skin, and just like the Egyptians, they wore jaguar. They wore they wore the leopard, and over here we wore the jaguar.
That's
so yeah, there was priests.
Right.
That's priest attire, they medicine men. So but hey, you ain't hearing from me. I'm just somebody just trying to be nobody and nobody being somebody.
Nah, Pa, don't be playing with us tonight. We ain't got time for that. That's not gonna work tonight. That's not gonna work. Everybody should know who you is if they don't know. You know what I'm saying? You feel me?
Yeah.
Okay, see, I don't dodge no smoke. You came in the audience, you know what I'm saying, and TurtleGang has pulled up on us tonight for this conversation. You know what I mean? Peace to you. Can you hear us?
Peace to everyone. Peace. You can hear me?
Peace and blessings. Yes, sir.
Peace.
Peace was happening, cuz I see you, baby.
And as I said before, we might disagree on different things, you know what I mean? But this whole conversation is not about intentions towards nobody that's on the panel. We're just having a conversation. So, you know what I mean? And how this discussion comes about is because we're hearing certain things out there in the platforms today. And I think a lot of you have been around for a minute, you know what I'm saying? And there are different perspectives, you know what I'm saying? So
shit, I was around this bitch for hours.
Lord, we gotta keep this in perspective right now. Like the conscious community is saying some new groups. I don't know if it's I don't remember this being done before. You know what I mean? Where we're hearing this perspective of Jerusalem being in the Americas or Egypt being in the Americas or like that's something new. Like to us, I would think like hip hop changed. You know what I'm saying? This is some new shit. I'm just being real, like how hip hop changed. You know what I mean? And what we was being told then, now it's being flip flopped, like the opposite.
Well,
like it's a paradigm shift. I'm trying to understand what's really catch. I'm like I ain't that old. I'm just saying that fuck all these. I ain't that old. You feel me? So like
Ishmael in his 50s. I'm almost to my 50s. I'm 2 years old. You know
Oh
what I'm
yeah,
saying?
still
So
looking 30. Okay, I'm with you. I'm with you.
You trying to play
you know,
games?
but
Man, don't
but
hide your
I,
age.
not only do I call Norris TurtleGang, but I also call him TurtleGang of hip hop because he's been
Okay.
around the legends dealing with the boom bap nation. So I
Yeah.
mean, to listen to old school rap was like dealing with the upliftment of the people, but what it is today, I don't know. You know what I'm saying? I mean, some people might not like what I said, but that's being
It is what it
detrimental to
is.
our people. It's detrimental to our people. You know what I'm saying? But hey, I yield the floor over.
Hold on real quick, Apostle. Noise, you just came on. You've been watching in the chat. You know what I mean? And me and you even have crossed paths on Facebook. You might not have never met me currently like how we're talking right now. And obviously I come in peace as we talk. We can disagree to agree on certain things. Sometimes be taken out of context and text messages and stuff. I mean, Ishmael had the same situation back in the day. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But when we talk to each other real time, I think we'd be on the same page about a lot of things. So we're going to have this conversation tonight, though. I heard you talking to him on Facebook earlier about one of the topics that we're talking about right now. And what's your thoughts on being that you have the Lenape lineage and you've been doing this for a long time, this Jerusalem Egyptian thing? Because, what's your thoughts on that?
All right, so I'm gonna say a few things. I'm trying to get it real quick. So it's a concept of rubber plants in a real forest, right? You can go buy a plastic plant, go put it in the forest. It's gonna look like all the rest of the trees, right? Come back in a year's time, the rest of the trees have grown and they bear fruit. That rubber plant ain't bear no fruit. So I say, Jerusalem in America, all this conversation, what fruit has it ever bear? You know what I'm saying? And what fruit could it possibly bear? Right? So now in terms of this whole idea of Jerusalem being the Americas, the Hebrews being from the Americas, this is in no way to disparage anybody who's of any Hebrew faith. If that's your lineage, this is not about that. Right? So in the early 1600s, when these settlers were landing in certain territories, they started to encounter people and they observed their customs of living and things of this nature. And they wrote in their own books. It's in a book called Ye O Monmouth. It came out in 1619. It's the recordings of the settlers of what we would call Monmouth County, New Jersey, which is where my family is from. Right. In their recordings, they said, these surely must be the lost tribes of Israel. So that first concept of anything over here having to do with the history from over there, the ground was laid in 1619. But that was because these Europeans were coming over here and speculating on what they were seeing. From that, they called us everything from Moors to Ethiopians. They also called the same people when they encountered them in Bay Ridge, Brooklyn, which is where the Verrazano Bridge is, which is where I currently live. That's where Verrazano encountered the Lenape people. In his recordings, he also described them as Ethiopians. See what I'm saying? Why? Because these are terms that they're familiar with. So until you learn of people and know how people identify themselves, you're going to associate titles that you're familiar with. So when these Europeans came to these lands, in so many scenarios, they associated what they were encountering with mythology and legends from their past. So when they saw the Lenape, they said, these surely must be the lost tribes of Israel. When they saw pyramids, they said, this has got to be Egypt of the West. That's the term they use, and that's the Masonic term, Egypt of the West. Doesn't mean this is Egypt. It means it's a reference point, something they can relate to. Okay? Mm-hmm. You also have a situation in when the Spaniards entered into California and they encountered large tribes. To answer the question of a brother, do I believe Negroes were in America? Like, Negro is a title. I believe it was nations of people that you would describe as Negro that populated the whole earth, let alone just America. You know what I'm saying? But when these Spaniards encountered these tribes in California, many of the soldiers as children had read certain books, right? One of the books was a book that spoke about a mythological Queen Khalifa on a magical island named California. So when they encountered these tribes in California, they said these surely must be the ones we read about in these books. So they started associating everything they encountered with what they knew about, which is what anybody does. You know what I'm saying? So a lot of what we're getting caught up in is these people's early accounts of what they were observing and them comparing it to what they already knew. And we're sitting here arguing over it because some European recorded something in his journal. But I would say, if we're going to say Egypt is in America, I would say go sit down with those people who are descendants of those tribes who occupied that land and have that conversation with them. And if they co-sign that shit, I co-sign it. But until the qualified people are having these conversations, these just rubber plants in a real forest.
I appreciate your thoughts on that, Eric. I mean, hey, everybody got their thoughts. Your tradition is showing certain things. Actually, you said 1619 a minute ago, and I actually have found something saying like 1576 when it started coming in with certain people who started saying the same thing you just said. So the trail is there.
So
You know
earlier
what I mean?
than that,
the trail is there. You know what I mean? Like
the point
I see
is,
where you're going though. Like the point is the narrative was pushed on the people.
Yeah, the narrative was being put on us long before we even had knowledge of these things. You know what I'm saying? So this is like I said, this is a conversation we having because there's so many layers that we gotta unravel to get to our truth, and we doing it via other cultures. We working our way back home via other cultures, and hopefully people will start seeing the similarities and stop wanting to understand who got it from who and who created what first. Because when you talk about culture don't belong to man. Just like the land don't belong to us. We belong to the land. We belong to the culture. When you move, you take aspects of your culture that are pertinent to your existence, and that would be your personal, right? But when you go to another environment, you have to adapt to the culture of that environment. That culture don't belong to you. You know what I'm saying? I agree. So when you see people doing certain things all over the planet, it ain't because they copied off somebody, it's because they all observe the same things. A tribe in the Americas don't need a tribe in Africa to show them the stars. They can look right up and see it themselves. You know what I'm saying? Like, you take two farmers from two different lands and put them together, they don't speak the same language, but they speak the same language. And they're going to find a commonality because they speak the language of farming. Right? So when you got different groups coming together, they're going to find out that they speak similar languages, but it's not the spoken language. It's the agricultural language. You know what I mean? It's the traditional language. And this is where these groups come together and make bonds. You know what I mean? We was doing trade in the Americas with groups from all over the world going back over 100,000 years. That's what they've been hiding from people. They've been hiding that modern man is much older than what they tell us. So, of course, there's been mummies in Africa with cocaine from here because it's been heavy trade going on long before the Europeans came in and turned and twisted everything up. You know what I mean? It's only being revealed to those of us now who are coming from under that spell. But there are nations that have their records. They just been suppressed.
I got you on that.
So
I appreciate you for joining us, man.
So rather than read these European books, we should talk to these nations.
I agree with that. Issa, you've been quiet. I want you to get your thoughts in on this part of what you just heard in the conversation. Can you hear me, Issa?
Yeah,
Professor.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Is something you want to say about what you just heard?
Yeah, I just got a question for TurtleGang.
Okay.
I don't subscribe to the Egypt or the Jerusalem thing over here either. But the question would be the various books, articles, Smithsonian, they say they found Egyptian artifacts in the Grand Canyon. They also reports of finding Hebrew tablets amongst the Cherokee nations. You're probably familiar with it. Do you Do you say that those people came over here at some point in time before Columbus? That's my question.
You're muted. If you hear us, you're muted. Unmute yourself.
Yeah, so the second part of the question, the reason you're going to see similarities between Hebrews and Cherokees because they come from the same root people, right? And you have different groups of people coming over here or the same people that just came at different times. When I say different times, I'm saying different spans of hundreds of maybe thousands of years. So over that period of time, their culture and their tradition and their language changed. So you had cousins linking back up with cousins who had been separated for thousands of years. You know what I'm saying? The Cherokee is one of those groups. You know what I mean? As is all the other different groups. Everybody related, they just either developed in a distinct part at a different time, you know what I'm saying? Or they migrated at a different time, but they all got similar roots. So you're going to see similar things. Now, the first question in terms of them finding Egyptian artifacts. So check this out. Kemet is a library, right? It's a library. If there is, if the ruler of Kemet, right, at any time did anything, they recorded it. So yes, there might be what they call Egyptian artifacts in the Grand Canyon, but let's match that up with the records found in Kemet of the Pharaoh, you know what I mean, who sent that off, because he gonna want that documented in his name, because that's what they did over there. They ain't do nothing without documenting it and making a big thing out of it. You know what I'm saying? Now, also, what you have to understand too is that hieroglyphics, many people had hieroglyphics. A bunch of different people had hieroglyphics. So they're finding things and they're associating it all with Egypt because that was where they got the bulk of their understanding from, through Greece and through Egypt. So that's where they get their civilization from. So that's what they measure everything against. That's their parents. So anything you encounter, you're going to reference what your parents taught you. That's your base, right? So their base is biblical history. And you know that the foundation of biblical history is what was going on in what we call Northeast Africa, you know what I mean, into the Middle East, right? So that's the basis of their understanding of all things. So anything they see, they're going to measure against that. So, like, and on top of that, as I stated before, like, it's been people traveling back and forth for hundreds of thousands of years. It was interrupted for a short period of time because of the Ice Age, you know what I mean? But before that, it was animals going back and forth. That's why you have the llama coming from South America and then developing into the camel in Asia through its migration. You know what I'm saying? And many other animals. So this is what we have to really take into consideration, that modern man been here way longer than they keep telling us.
I agree with you on that. So real quick, Rob and Ish, which one of you want to go first? What's your thoughts on this conversation that we're having right now before we go to the next topic? And again, thank you, TurtleGang, for joining us tonight on these topics.
Thank you, brother.
We want no echo chamber. We want the truth from your opinion of research, each of you. So,
as Brother TurtleGang was speaking, he used the term, which is what anybody does in the comparison side of things. I'm in agreement with that, because we'll just say, for example, say this was a flying saucer that landed in the middle of a stadium. Well, we be calling them the great things that walked off of that. We would be calling them aliens, because that's what we would compare them to, right? We would say a flying saucer landed in the stadium and some aliens walked out. Now, if you ask those people, they may be speaking something and not even understand what you're saying. They certainly wouldn't call themselves aliens, right? But you're comparing it to something that you know. So when you go to these different areas, that's exactly what you would do. Again, as Brother accurately said, that's what anyone would do. So they're using their frame of reference and applying that frame of reference. That doesn't mean historically that it's the same exact thing, but that's all that they can compare it to. So I'm gonna agree.
I agree with that. I agree with that too. I think that's the similarity part. Matter of fact, a lot of resources I read is saying that that's the fact that these people had oral history, you know what I mean, of how they gave out their information to their tribal people, you know what I mean? It wasn't written down. Okay, that's a similarity to these group of people who are dark skinned too. Okay, they do these things around the solstice and the equinoxes, dealing with their, like how you said, planting things and knowing when not to plant things That's also something. Okay, like you said, that's something. TurtleGang said it. Stars. You know what I mean? You know, based off of your seasons, winter, fall, spring, and summer. No matter where you at, if you're indigenous people, aboriginal people to the land, at a certain point, you learn how to grow off the land. So you're gonna know no matter where you at, what seasons to celebrate and whatever cultures you do to do that, wherever you're coordinated to on the earth. You know what I'm saying? I would think that's common sense. But at the same time, because of the cultural similarities, then we can confuse how a religious narrative will fit all cultures. That really, as he stated, I ain't seeing being really similar to saying factually that these people are the same people until the 15th century. But for that time frame, every culture had an origin story. Every culture had an origin story. Asiatics, Africa, Europeans, and Americas. They all had their own origin. Even though in the Americas, the different tribes have different origin stories amongst themselves.
Correct. And it really comes down to having, the best PR. When you got the hot PR, how the wax song gets played on the radio every day and it becomes hot. You started off hating it and it became like, okay, it's pretty catchy. Repetition. So that's really what the Bible was, being mass produced. You started seeing this type of mentality kind of overriding or, kind of being labeled, something else. Yeah.
So, all right. So now I got everybody back. So you can just flash back up here. I want to go to the next one. You know what I mean? We got until 11 o'clock, maybe a little bit after. They might let me hang a little after, but this
yeah, I missed a little part of the segment because I'm at work. I'm doing security
I know you're at work.
so
I appreciate you.
I just got back
either
on.
way. Ain't no pressure.
Yeah.
Okay, so where I'm going with this, because we did the ancient old world part just now. My next part segment is now the Hebrew and the Moorish part, dealing with this Aboriginal culture of Americas and trying to always put the narrative of everybody in the Americas being either the Hebrew or the Moor. You know what I'm saying? Dealing with the people of their Aboriginal origin stories of the Americas prior to the 15th century, when people we know of the origin of Moors or called Hebrews came to the Americas with their situations they came over here with. How do you guys feel about that? Pa, you just came back in. I'm gonna let you slide because you got to go. What you got to think about that real quick?
No, I'm good. I just had to make sure I had to do my rounds. But so you want me to go ahead on and chime on that? What you just spoke about the Hebrews?
Yes, sir. Yeah, that part. That's the topic we on now. I'm gonna go back around. Yes, sir.
All right. Well, from me knowing what I know, right? Dealing with the Babylonian captivity, when you had some Hebrews in them that actually fled before the captivity of Babylon, you actually have some that came to the Americas. You know what I'm saying? And that was dealing with the Babylonian captivity that was like in 500 BCE, So yeah.
Okay. Rob, I'm gonna go with Rob. Then then TurtleGang, then back to Ish. So Rob, what you think?
Oh man, you talk about as far as the Hebrews and the Moor situation.
Yes, sir.
Back to what TurtleGang was saying, like as far as people and the cultures being similar globally, I think that's right. You know what I mean? Like the people that came here may have saw a similar culture and say, yo, those gotta be Hebrews, Were they calling themselves Hebrews? Probably not, And see, this is what, like me, I'm not into religion. So when, people start doing biblical references, I'm looking for like the artifacts. I'm looking for, the documentation that tells people, this is what y'all were doing, but I'm not going on people's belief systems. You know what I mean? Because people have had so many different beliefs over the years, and that'll hang you up. You know what I mean? I'm not really into that. I like to cut down to the point. So with the Moor thing, I mean, Moors, and me and you have actually done a podcast about Moors before, and you broke down a whole lot about, Moors and all the different ways the Moors, applied. I still, in my heart of hearts, still feel like Moors were specific groups of people from a specific period of time in a specific place. Now, if you came here and you saw somebody that was doing something similar, you may call them Moorish, and we've seen that in documentation. You know what I'm saying? But would they call themselves Moors? I don't think they would. You know what I mean? Just like the Indians probably wouldn't call themselves Hebrews or
Right.
Indians, for that matter. You
Right.
know what I mean? So all I'm saying is like you know, we had global cultural similarities. I feel like, you know, and you could really still kind of see the remnants of it now. But to say that they were these people or that people, I can't, you know, I wouldn't, you know, I wouldn't bet money on it. I would just say that the similarities are there, you know, the cultural similarities are there, maybe some of the daily practices, you know, all of that. It's possible they're the same type of people. The names, I don't condone the names just because, you know, we got so many different names. You know what I mean? It's like, hey man, I can't say they were Moors. I could say maybe they were similar to the Moors, you know. So I don't know, bro. That's all I got for that one right there.
Ain't no pressure. Hey, it's a question going around the table. We sitting at the dinner table like Malcolm said. We made our own table to talk about this at. So we doing it our way. So Issa, what you think about this?
All right.
Yeah, well, it depends what time period you're talking about. I have more research when Columbus came over that could be verified than pre-Columbus when it comes to the Moors. So I have read different articles and there's evidences of more Moors coming over here before Columbus, but I have more research that you could actually find documentation that they came with Columbus, or you know, that whole Spanish conquest over here, they came with them. So as you know, most people know, in 1492 it was the end of the Moorish empire in Iberia. The Catholics won, Queen Isabel and King Ferdinand. With the fall of Granada, they had a treaty, and the Moors were supposed to be allowed to stay, but the Moors and the Hebrews were later expelled from Spain. Within, I think, 5 to 10 years, there was a mass expulsion. At the same time, the Portuguese were really the ones who was riding the west coast of Africa, and they were kidnapping people and enslaving them. So when you have that dynamic going on, and that was under Prince Henry the Navigator, when you have that dynamic going on, you see that Islamic Moorish reign was coming into an end in Europe. A lot of them went back to North Africa, but you know about what they call the Moriscos or the Moranos. Moriscos were the Muslims who were undercover practicing Catholicism outwardly, but they still retain their Islamic faith. And what they call the Moranos were the Hebrews who did the same thing. A lot of these people came to the Americas, it's documented. So when we talk about the Moors coming here, I tend to go more with that documentation because there's piles of it than pre-Columbus. Even though I do believe there was maybe colonies or presence here, but I'd rather stick to what could be documented. And when we talk about that, Florida is probably going to be the place. Florida, Cuba, and those islands around Florida.
Hispaniola, Bahamas.
Yeah, Puerto Rico, the Bahamas, Bermuda, where you're going to have the biggest presence of those type of Moors in the Americas initially when Columbus, you know, Spaniards came over here. And even in Brazil, because there's even in Brazil, I think it was in Bahia, Brazil, that there was some down there as well. So when it comes to the Moors being in the Americas, I'd rather stick to the documentation that there's a pile of it that we could show as evidence of that when they came with the conquistadors. And particularly in Florida, there was, I think, I want to say 1, 2, 3. There's 3 different episodes in Florida where Ponce de Leon came over and he got ransacked by the Calusa. And after Ponce de Leon, you had Aviles. I think his name was Aviles, and you also had there's one more. I want to say Menendez. I can look it up, but within their missions or expeditions in Florida, when you look up documentation, it says that they were in English. English in the Florida history in English, they're gonna say Negroes. That's the term they use.
Right.
But those people who came with the Spaniards were not called Negroes. They were Moors, right?
Right.
And
Right.
and those I believe it's like 3 different battles or expeditions. Those people actually they flipped sides and joined the natives that was in Florida at that time. They weren't called the Seminoles at the time. There was like 14 or
No.
15 different tribes.
Yeah. Seminoles
But
ain't
they
around
had
at that
joined
time.
them. So
Don't
that would
forget
be
the Soto.
incursion with the Moors in Florida and indigenous people that could be
I
documented.
want to say something to you before I go ask TurtleGang's position. Hold on now, Pop. I will come back around. Trust me, this is a good topic right here. I want to get to this part. So some clarity from everybody's perspectives here, right? On the research and obviously your cultural, whatever your genealogy you have it, even in your bloodline, right? Now, when you just said 1492, right? When you said 1492, there's some things that I found, like you said, documented stuff that we could go through and see there particular things, a group of people that are being subscribed in 1492. Now, the term Moor is the popular term. I know it is because, it's been around for a minute. We got the Moor, you know what I mean? But you said Morano because, I had Lee Cummins and Kuti Mayo on a podcast together dealing with this term Morano. You know what I mean? Because they've done their extension of research. You know what I'm saying? So I try to keep to the sources, right? So when you said Morano, I'm in agreement with you. That's a factual situation in 1492 who got expelled. But in the Alhambra, that's it, right? The Alhambra decree, right, in 1492, it particularly says Jews, though. It don't say Moors. It don't say Muslims. It says Jews, right? Now, in 1609, I'm going to give credit that they show that, the king at that time frame that was dealing with those Moriscos kicked them out too. You know what I'm saying? But in 1492, the popular year that everybody want to go to, the actual decree is very specific to a Jew. You know what I'm saying? Now, in that situation, I'm going to tell you something that no one at least likes to even bring up, it seems. 1492, you know what else happened in around that same time frame, outside the European situation? The Muslim, Askia Muhammad, you know what I'm saying? He's the general of the Songhai Empire. He converts to become a Muslim. All right? This is 1492. He takes the power from Sonny Baro, who was the son of Sonny Ali. And Sonny Ali is the king of the Songhai Empire from 1464 to 1492. This is the area they're calling Negro land. This is the land they're saying the land of Judah. This is the Songhai Empire. The Songhai Empire goes back to 300 AD. These are people we would call Yahudi, running a whole empire in what we would call today Mali, Senegal, Nigeria, Ghana, the whole coast that we call the Ivory Coast, that we would call Jews, technically in historical reference, from my understanding of these groups of people and what their faith was at the time frame. So it's funny how this empire just sends the Muslims come in on the empire, and the people in 1492 who are getting kicked out of those regions are also being labeled as Jews, dealing with that particular decree. They're also being labeled Moors, meaning dark-skinned Moranos, as I've always pointed out. They're the ones being expelled and coming to the Americas. We have the proof of them mixing in with the Mayans. And down here in Brazil, this is who's coming in from my own research. So I just want to point out that I see what you're going with, but I want to make sure that was clear from my part of what I saw. You know what I mean? And what I'm seeing in genealogy too. The cryptoness happening with this Catholic situation under the Roman Catholic situation at that time. But Turtle, what's your thoughts on it? I want to get everybody's thoughts. Let's tap in.
Okay, so everybody is reflective of the truth because there's many different reasons why. It's multiple reasons. But I'm gonna go back to a speech that was given by the principal chief of the Anyawiya Nation or the Dabo Nation, also known as Cherokee, Right. So this is the principal chief. You can find his paintings in museums. He's a chief in Virginia. He also traveled to Europe and went before the Queen of England. His name is Chief Atta Kula Kula. All right. So it says the original Dabo. Let me start up here a little earlier. The Dabo are well known for their beauty as they have their own distinctive look from other indigenous people. European colonists and today's scientists claim the Dabo look more East Indian or Middle Eastern than looking like other indigenous groups on Turtle Island. The original Dabo skin complexion ranged from brown, tan, and olive, according to Chief Atta Kula Kula. According to a ceremonial speech in 1750, we traveled here from the rising sun before the time of the Stone Age man. Legend claims the Dabo came here from what is now known as India or Sri Lanka many years ago. This is talking about they migrated here in the Stone Age. So those migrations would predate any modern name. So to try to link any of these people with any modern nations that exist is false. So the principal chief in 1750 of the Anyawi, the Cherokee Nation, states in a speech to the entire nation as well as the United States government that their people come from a territory or area that we now call Sri Lanka, right? So then it goes to describe their attire. All right, it says European historian John Haywood, one of the first who studied the Dabu origin, concluded he was one of the first to study their origin. This is the Cherokee, the Anyawiya. He concluded they came from South Asia linked to the Hindu culture. They wore lots of jewelry, including silver, copper, gold, turquoise, crystals, and shells for fashionable and healing purposes. The men wore traditional head turbans similar to the people in East India and Middle East. Now, if you look at traditional Cherokee, you will find that the men wear turbans. That is something that is a little different than a lot of the other tribes. So now I can start to formulate how I feel about it because I've accessed an indigenous nation, what they say, and then the scientists now who study what they say have verified it based on their findings. So I'm satisfied with this. So why do we find similarities between Moors and certain natives? Primarily, that would be the Cherokee for these very reasons.
Okay, I'm glad you pointed that out. Then I don't think I've heard that before. To be honest with you, real quick, that's a drop. You heard me? For you to say it like that live tonight, you know what I mean?
Chief Atta Kula Kula.
Put it in perspective.
Look him
you
up.
know what I mean? That's real talk. I appreciate that. We will. I want everybody to look that up. Don't believe nothing you heard on this conversation tonight. But we don't want you to. You're just having a conversation. We want people to go ahead and look these things up.
Yeah, you can definitely look it up.
This conversation. Yeah.
Chief Atta Kula Kula.
Real quick, go ahead. Issa, you had something to say before we go to Ish?
Yeah, I got a question for TurtleGang. Are you saying is that the only, or that's one aspect of it?
I'm saying that's an ancient aspect. I'm saying what the brother before me said is a more modern aspect, and so on and so forth. I'm saying all of these things played a part in it. The events that took place in 1492, events that took place long before that, doing trade, all of this is a part of why we see these things. It's called cross-cultural
diffusion.
Diffusion, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, ethnogenesis. Ish, what you thought about that? Go ahead, bro.
Yes, sir. Yeah, I mean the Moorish element, dealing with that Moorish part of the topic. You have Moors that as brother Professor Esau accurately said, that came over with the Menendez and the De Soto, but when they came over, the tribes weren't saying that you're me or you're us, welcome home. They differentiated, understanding that they came over with the Spaniards, and them coming over in that capacity. Again, as was accurately said, there were some of them that either were left behind because they were either injured or escaped, that went and lived amongst the populations. And those are the tribes that I do derive from. I do derive from that Muskogee bloodline and from those Dakusa and the, the Kushata tribes. And it is a part of the writings, and they were used as translators in the later years. As far as for the Seminoles, they were used as translators. Moors were used. If Brother God can post up the link that we have in the back, we have a depiction of the Columbus Indians from the museum that's in Amsterdam. And as you can see from the depictions, the link is also on there that takes you directly to the link. We see what the Indians are depicted as that greeted Columbus. So yeah, you can look at those depictions of these populations that greeted Columbus, and yes, somebody can say, okay, yeah, they look like Moors, but in that, the cultures, are you looking at them? Are you describing them in a descriptive form? Or are you trying to say that these are Moorish people? They're not Moorish people because they're not coming from that same direct line of lineage. These are the ancient people. So again, as Brother TurtleGang actually said also, we're talking about an earlier population of people. And in these earlier migrations of people, or these indigenous populations of people, they're not the same people that came over in that later time. So I just think that those terms are being used in a broad sense of saying this was all Morocco. Historically, that's not accurate. Even if you deal with the northeastern tribes, the northeastern tribes had what you would call a Moorish, interactions, but they didn't call themselves Moors in that sense. They were still identified as American Indian tribes with their own distinct bloodline, heritage, and lineage. So to call them Moors on the broad sense is not accurate. So I just think that the proper context of how you apply those terms are most important.
I agree with that, actually. Matter of fact, Ish, do you need this up still? That was a good presentation of that, though. I appreciate that link for tonight. For anybody that got to see it, they can go see the museum and everything you just showed and everything. Amsterdam, right? I said Amsterdam, the Dutch. There's links in the chat for anybody that wants to go look at that. So, because we don't got all night. Like, we don't do this like YouTube joint. This is a mixed show. We live. Shout out to Museum Lounge in our local area, obviously, and people are listening in different channels, Mixcloud, YouTube, and people listen after the fact too. So as we move through the conversation, I agree that there's mixtures, right? But there's not in the variation to take over our population of the Aboriginal people, indigenous people, or the American Indian that is on the land here in their different situations prior to these people mixing in. You know what I mean? Now, did they come anciently before 1500s? As I heard Turtle say, I agree. You know what I'm saying? There's different examples of people trading that's been kind of whitewashed out the situation because of a narrative that's being spent. You know what I mean? So we ain't gonna try to like discriminate against our own people that look like us that's been navigating the seas before 1492. But we just not some savages that they trying to say, oh, all of a sudden some white people brought some people on the ships and black people don't know how to get on the ocean. That's crazy. You know what I mean? So at the end of the day, like, we got to be real about this. So in a manner of cultural exchange and all the different mixtures that take place in the Americas for all the different genealogies that people are finding, we're not saying that nobody was not mixing before them time frames. I'm just saying that Jerusalem, Egypt, Bethlehem, you know what I'm saying, Mount Nebo, you know what I'm saying. I can give you all the different situations, and it's influenced because of a cultural situation. By the way, from my opinion, if it wasn't for an infusion of the cultures, you wouldn't have these narratives over here. You know what I mean? That's the proof of that narrative. But it doesn't mean that that's what it is. You know what I mean? So we can't get that caught up in it. You know what I mean? That's just how cultural exchange works, in my opinion, when we look at how we do today. You know what I mean? So with that, moving on, Ish, prior time. Paul, you want to say something before I go to Ish?
Yeah, I want to say something.
I want to go. Go ahead. Before I say something to Ish, it's you next.
All right, here it go. Right. The thing about King Ferdinand and Queen Isabella, them motherfuckers was Moorish too. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Let me put that out there. They was Moorish too. Because in order to be royalty or a monarch, you had to have Moorish blood. Okay. In 2012, I'm about to boast and pat myself on the back. When we did the Blog Talk Radio show, you remember that, right?
Yeah, I
was the first one that actually said that Christopher Columbus was a Sephardic Moorish Jew. That was in 2012. And then guess
You
what?
said
The
that back then.
BBC came
A
out.
Morano.
The BBC came out in 2016 and said that Christopher Columbus was a Negro.
Yeah, a Morano.
And I was like, damn. But the thing is this, right? It's just like when I told the Moors and them, I say, wait, hold on. A Morisco had already been a Morisco. That's not one that converted to Christianity because they was the ones that created the shit.
Come on.
Because I actually did a post on Facebook talking about the Moorish popes of Europe. And one of the Moorish pope was the one that made Emperor Constantine a Christian. And that was in 310 AD. You know what I'm saying? So it was like, oh shit. And another reason why I found out, if you remember, when they talk about the Nina, the Pinta, and the Santa Maria, you know, when I was working at the international airport, I actually got to meet a diplomat from the Dominican Republic. She worked for the government. And she said they only talk about 3, but he came with a fleet of ships. They only talk about the Nina, the Pinta, and the Santa Maria. But see, but also what I told people was that Christopher Columbus was also a Poor Nicer Templar. That's what he was sailing under. But y'all don't want to hear that from me, though.
No. Go ahead, no, Paul. Hold on, Paul. Wait, no, hold on, now, Paul. Go ahead, now, Paul. I'm gonna fuck with you now. I heard you say it. And I ain't gonna, everything. Listen. From my understanding, Columbus was a Morano. You know what I'm saying? With some Basque mixture in them too. You know what I'm saying? Because them Basque came over. It was influencing with the Iroquois and the Algonquins before 1492. You know what I'm saying? It was on that sea catching whales and shit. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? And cod.
And you know what else?
You know.
And you know what else too? They also came and mixed in.
Then you're breaking up. Is it me, y'all? Am I tripping? He breaking up? He froze.
Yeah, it's
breaking up.
I know he out there in the zoo right now.
Damn.
In Louisiana.
At the best part, that's like the best part of the movie, just going a commercial, like, come on now.
Like,
come on
pause. Come back, commercial. This man paused in the middle of his shit, middle of the zoo. Hey, at the same time,
man, I want him to finish that. Hey, I'm trying to hear. I'm trying to hear that.
Hey, Paul, if you hear anything, man, go out and come back in. That's all I can say. Like how Clubhouse ain't ish. Hey, go out and come back in.
Exactly.
You're in the Matrix. You're in the Matrix. No, Richard. Now, shout out to everybody in the chat, tapping into this conversation. You know what I mean? Indigenous People Holiday. Tomorrow's the weekend. Some people get paid off. They ain't got to work. He gone. Yeah, he out of there. I know he's gonna come back. He's gonna come back in. So, Ish, man, I want to come back to you though. We're gonna get the current time before I go to the next part. You know what I mean? Because I'm trying to time this right. I want everybody else to tap in on what is going on currently. Because I know I'm on Clubhouse and I know what's going on in the American Indian community a certain way for the narrative of generosity. You know what I'm saying? Not for any particular tribe or so, but just on a general situation. You know what I mean? So can you give us an update on what you be dealing with politics-wise? First Nation, you've been into some shit. I want you to give it to me first on our podcast because you've been doing your thing. Can you give me your thought and let everybody weigh in on it from all the different perspectives? Go ahead.
Yeah, we do have a petition that we're circulating that's dealing with the misclassification. You know, with that misclassification of what takes place is an erasure of our history and our identity. And what we're asking for is for that, to be addressed properly. So what we're doing is starting off with the petition. We also have what's called a manifesto that's already developed and being added on to, that's being presented. So that's being worked on behind the scenes also. But in that, again, what we're dealing with is a misclassification of what took place systematically in this country. We just showed you what the depictions are of those people who greeted Columbus. What were they called? Well, they would call themselves, the Kalinago. They were also the people that Columbus met over in Europe before he ever even got here. 20 years before he even came over to the West, he met those people. He identified those people and wrote it in his journal of what they looked like. So those people that greeted Columbus are called a lot of various other names today. African American, colored, Moorish, a lot of different other names other than what they are. And there's a history that's tied to those people also. And many of us derive from those people as far as the different lineages of the Aboriginal populations. So this is what we're addressing in the petition. We'll make sure that we're able to supply the link for everyone to please be able to read it. If you have any questions, my phone number is on there, or just contact me on my website. I'll be there in order to answer any questions that you may have. But I think that these are very important things that need to be addressed. You know, nobody has ever gone to the courts and addressed the fact that the Indian Removal Act is fraudulent. If it's completely fraudulent, and if this person is proven to be, you know, Andrew Jackson, proven to be that foreigner of a Spanish citizen, why hasn't any attorney ever taken up the case? Who's going to speak for those people in order to say this is a total fraudulent thing that took place as far as the Indian Removal Act? This man was a treasonous. And even if you're found guilty of treason, you're not even allowed to be the president of the United States or a general. It's written in there that if you're found guilty of treason, you're not allowed to hold high office. That's by the law. So there's an entire fraud that took place in order to steal our land, our identity, and our heritage that's going to be addressed. So that's what the petition is going to be dealing with.
Okay, bet. So now you said that, I want to let everybody speak on it first, real quick. In your perspective, if everybody understands what he just said, that's on the panel. Rob, what you thought about what he just said? We'll go to you first, and then TurtleGang, and then Chito. I think Issa gonna come back in. So Rob, what you think
about what it said?
Yeah, what it just said. What they're doing the petition. Yeah.
I mean, just to be clear, we talking about the petition. Oh no, that's dope. I mean, yo, I'll sign up. You know what I mean? And as a matter of fact, look, I definitely would like to read more about it, but I know Ishmael is not playing. You know what I mean? As a matter of fact, I think I've seen that in your group. Ishmael, you put that up in your group maybe like a month or two ago, right?
Hey, Ish, who is the?
I think I actually shared that on my page.
Okay, who's the organization behind the petition? Who's the actual organizations? I don't want to be singular. So can you give us that real quick too, since he brought that up?
Yep, it's the Urban Indian Heritage Society. It's with my cousin Phoenix Moon. We have a lot of other various people that we're working in conjunction with as an actual coalition, you know. So by confederating and just getting our groups together, we're trying to address this as an actual united body. So there's individuals that are in place as well as organizations, but that organization is the head organization, and we're there supporting under that umbrella.
Word, that's what's up. So now y'all doing your coalition move, politics as usual. TurtleGang, what you thought about that? I mean, what they're doing and your perspective on it.
I think it's commendable what he's doing. I think there's so many different layers to this fight, and when people can identify what role they can play and go with that, you know, full steam and make that they focus. You know what I mean? I think that's what we need. You know what I mean? So I commend the brother on what he's doing, man.
Okay, that's what's up. Wow, what you thought? My bad.
Oh, all right. Here we go. Now, dealing with Andrew Jackson being under the Spanish jurisdiction, we have to go back and look at the melting pot that was done over here on this landmass. Now, with that being said, and with that being done, only thing that a president is, the president was, and I pointed this out in 2012 as well. A president was known as a royal president. If you don't know what a royal president is, I'll tell you what a royal president is. A royal president was nothing but a governor head that would actually report to the crown of England. Okay, that was the only thing that a royal president was, which became known as a president. And we all know that the United States is still a colony of the British Crown. So, with that being said, and by England, Spain, France, Portugal, Austria, Germany, all those are a part of the, listen what I'm about to say, of the Holy Morisco Holy Empire.
Yeah, Morisco.
So, yeah, that was the Morisco Holy Empire. That was the West Morisco Holy Empire. So with that being said, by him being of Spanish descent, which you had two brothers that was on the throne of Europe. One was the King of France and the other was the King of Spain. This is where you had the Spanish land grant come in at. That actually dealt with the Florides that went all the way to Louisiana. That's where Empress Verdiasi was talking about, when she actually had the Spanish land grant that came through her grandfather, who was
Joseph de Maison Rouge, the Marquis, okay, who was a Frenchman. Okay, but what most people don't know is that if you ever saw the movie Caribbeans of the Pirates of the Caribbean's High Tide, when they showed you King George III, see, when he was talking to old boy who was a pirate, what's his name? Jack Sparrow. He said that you may not know who I am, but I'll tell you who I am. He said he is the Lord of Lords, Kings of Kings. He also the Holy Roman Empire treasurer. And he's also the King of England, the King of Ireland, but they left out the King of France because he was also the King of France. But see, they're not telling you that, but Hollywood just let it go so far, right? So with that being done, all of them is tied together. So for him to be a Spanish diplomat or citizen or subject, all that still falls under the Roman Catholic Church. And we all know how that's going to play out.
Ish, what you thought?
We all know how that's going to play out. So it's a good thing. It's a good thing.
I'm going to let you go next. Go ahead.
It's a good thing. And I'm with you with the fight because I'm ready to knock these motherfuckers out myself. So just know, we in for a battle. It ain't going to be no walk in the park. We got a battle on us.
No, matter of fact, since you said that before, Ish and I'm like, obviously you brought your petition to the table, this dinner table conversation we having tonight, and Issa, I want your thoughts on it too. But to reply to what he just said, I mean, of what the historical things you brought in to what you brought into the table, I want to let you respond. So in that manner, Ish, what you thought about that?
Yeah, respectfully. A person cannot be a United States citizen, denounce his United States citizenship, take a sworn oath to Spain, sign the documents of being a sworn citizen of Spain, and then go on and become the president of the United States. You can't do it. That's called treason. No different than what Benedict Arnold was guilty of. He went against his country. And nobody found his signed document of denouncing America until 1994. I repeat, 1994. It was in an obscure library over in Spain. So that makes it an illegal act, and that's what's going to be addressed.
Gotcha. Okay. I see where you're coming from. I want everybody to hear the narrative. Really, I know you on this shit. So if you get behind some shit, I know you got something up your sleeve-ish. See, I know you be having something up your sleeve. You happen to have a political understanding of where you're coming from. I know you ain't just know, you've been around too long. You know what I'm saying? Like, out of all the people I know that's involved, I know you. You know what I'm saying? I just keep it real. Anybody out there that, I keep it real. Like, even if I disagree with certain things. Because I like, how he said, like, this system, it's a fight, but I'm not hating on what the move is. To be understood that we've been misclassified and how we need to be getting back to our human rights and all that good stuff that need to be acknowledged. You know what I mean? But at the same time, like, the maneuvers and the details of it, because we can't read through the whole thing tonight. So everybody can just go ahead and read it. I just want you to go ahead and get your, you know what I mean? Slide it in there.
Yeah,
Slide
but
it in there
also
real quick, let people think about it and let them know what's going on.
Yeah, even though Andrew Jackson did that, you still have to ask the question, what made him go to the Spanish side? Because everybody know that the Spaniards was the big dog of the Holy Roman Empire. They was the big dog. They was the big dog. And they still is the big dog as quiet as kept. They still the big dog. Because in 2017, the Spanish monarch came over here to Louisiana. You know what I'm saying? Dealing with the 300 tricentennial. You know what I'm saying?
Are you asking me why he did it?
You have to understand. You have to understand the house that they're coming from, bruh. The house that they're coming from is dealing with the House of Orleans and the House of Bourbon. That ain't no bitch ass house, bruh. It's not.
Well, go ahead. It's a good one.
Are you asking me the motive of why he did it, or have you studied it, sir?
Yeah, it's what's the reason why he did it? Why did he go and sign the Spain?
I'm asking. Have you studied it at all? Have you studied? Did you know that he was a Spanish citizen, sir?
Yes, I did know.
Okay.
Yes,
I did. Do you know why he was?
The reason why that he went was actually a political move. Like I said, once again, the United States
is under the British Crown. It's still a colony. It's still a colony. So when you still have the Spanish in them that still have mostly all the power and everything, because the Spanish in them still run through the British House, dealing with the House of Orleans and the House of Bourbon.
Okay.
And you don't have to take my word for it.
Right. What I would do is just request for you to simply just go to my website. It gives you the motives of why he did it, along with his signature and the documentations and the whole background of it. Now, the reason why he did it was because he wanted to get access to the waterways that were taking place in Mississippi. So he did it because of greed. And it's all laid out on the actual website of why he did it. And again, these aren't my words. These are the documentations of the professors who brought it to the light. And respectfully, you wasn't dealing with this before me, bro.
I'll tell you this. Do you know about the Treaty of Paris?
And what aspect of it? I've heard it. Yes, I've studied it.
Okay. Do you know what they call the Mississippi River in New Orleans and Louisiana at that time in that Treaty of Paris?
Well, they were fighting for the access to the Natchez because it was really under the Spanish. The Spanish and the Spanish and the French were fighting for that particular region, which is why he took the oath to Spain. That's exactly the reason why.
Just like I said before, the Spanish and the French in them is running through the same blood, dealing with the families, the two brothers that were sitting on the throne. That's what I was saying earlier. Now, if you didn't know, in that Treaty of Paris, Louisiana or New Orleans was called the New El Madrid. Okay, it was called the New Madrid. We have the documents in the Empress book. This is why I said what I said. That's the reason why he actually went to go sign, because he knew that Spain, like I said before, is the fucking original power dog of the Holy Roman Empire. That's why he did it also, because remember, the Spaniards and them was over here before the French. There was two brothers on the bloodline that ran the House of Bourbon and the House of Orleans, like I said before.
Right, but the Empress didn't know about that, brother. I was with the Empress in 91. She didn't know that.
Guess what? In her book, The Return of the Ancient Ones, she have it in her book, dealing with the Treaty of Paris, and also dealing with the Marquis de Maison Rouge, and dealing with the de Bastra.
She knew nothing about Andrew Jackson being a sworn citizen of Spain. I was with her in 91.
I didn't. No, I'm not talking about her knowing about Andrew Jackson. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the Treaty of Paris and dealing with the Spanish land grants.
Okay,
and that's the reason why the Spanish land grant still exists today. And that's why it was never sold to the United States, because it was known as no man's land. That's why I said the British monarchy them came here in 2017, because they still got locked down on this motherfucker. That's what I'm trying to tell you, brother Ishmael. I'm not going to tell you something I don't know, bruh.
Okay, well, it's the conversation. That's the whole point of it. I want to come from all perspectives. And real quick, Issa, you've been quiet, man. I don't want to leave nobody out. What's your thoughts on this? What the petition is? Oh, he went out, man. Look at that. Yeah, typical. Okay, all right. So well, Ish, then you can respond until Issa comes back, so he can put his thoughts in on your petition and everything that's going on. What's your if you want to respond to this part of this conversation?
Who's it to me?
Yeah. If you want to respond to what he was saying, Issa went out.
Oh, no. We good. We good. No, we got to understand it. We understood. We're good.
Okay. So when it comes to the petition, though, overall, Pa, how do you feel about the petition, though? I get what you're saying about the technical difficulty of the Spanish
it's a
part
good
and
idea.
the crown and all that.
It's a good idea to get in the fight. It's a good idea to get in the fight. It's a very good idea to get in the fight. You know what I'm saying? And also dealing with the Indian Removal Act, right? And I said this before on one of my lives. How out of all the regions and area that Andrew Jackson wanted to move the Muskogee people out to Oklahoma, how did he know to move them to Oklahoma? Out of all the other places, why he chose Oklahoma?
Anybody want to answer? Anybody on the panel can answer.
Yeah, that came from Thomas Jefferson. Thomas Jefferson put that in motion. Thomas Jefferson let it be known that he wanted to move the indigenous populations west of the Mississippi. He put that in motion.
And why is that? Why out of every other place of North America, why he wanted to move them west of the Mississippi.
Or he needed to make some room for some white folk.
Are you sure about that?
Yeah, those are the people who moved into the homes. Yeah.
Y'all ready? Y'all ready for the answer? Y'all ready for the answer?
Go ahead, Paul. What's your thoughts on it? We having a conversation.
The reason why he moved the Muskogee to Oklahoma, because that's where the west of the Mississippi, because that's where the Muskogee came from, west of the Mississippi. He only brought them back to where they came from, and that was west of the Mississippi. And you can check that out on my Facebook page. You can go to Chito.
I'm curious.
You heard me.
I
got it on the Facebook page. So go ahead.
Yeah,
Right, what you got to think? Go ahead.
I was going to ask you what kind of documentation. I was just going to ask Paul, like, what kind of documentation are you getting that information from? Because I'm interested. I like to read it.
Yeah,
that documentation. That documentation is actually on my Facebook. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Hello. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you, bro. I hear you.
Yeah, I'm here. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I hear you. Yes, sir.
But do we have a source outside of the Facebook page? Things can go differently. Like people wanted to see sources from like a
you can go.
I want to be real about this conversation tonight. Now, you know what I mean?
Here it is. Here it is.
You cover a lot of historical things. You represent a nation of people.
Here it is. Here it is.
Here it is. So I know you're talking about certain things, but
dealing with my family, the Yati Yamasi, we actually have that when the Muskogee and them came across the Mississippi to come to the east and they fought against us.
So the Muskogee coming from over there into that area.
They came from the west and they came into the east and they fought against us.
Okay. The Muskogee.
The Muskogee. Yes.
Who became called the Creek?
Later down the line.
Right. I'm making sure we're online. Everybody can understand what we're talking about right now, what you saying. Make sure we all clear about what you're saying right now.
Because I had to tell one dude, I said, bruh, they had to, because just like what most people don't know, that Muskogee actually mean the people of the swamps. So Oklahoma have swamps. And I had one dude trying to say, oh, Oklahoma don't have no swamps. I said, yes, the fuck it does. It have more than 7 major swamps. You know what I'm saying? And it's actually in history that spoke about them coming west from the west of the Mississippi and coming to fight those that was on the southeastern side of the Mississippi River.
So the only thing they
did was send them back from where the fuck they came.
I respect
from the west of the Mississippi.
You said that because the word Muskogee is a Ladino word, right? It's not the pure Hittichi Yamasi language. It's
bingo.
So
bingo.
The Muskogee is saying that they're a mixed people, Muskie and G, which is the mixed people. G is from the actual original people from that area, and the word Muskie is dealing with the word mix. Muskegee, you know what I'm saying? Muskogee, that's a Ladino word, which is dealing with some of them Sephardic Jews, by the way, too, and mixed in with some indigenous people that were.
And also you can find it in the book called The Creation of the Creek Nation. You can find it in that book. And then that's another book. Just miss my head, but it actually speak about it, and I actually have the stuff that's on my page where you actually can go and see the reference of many other books that it spoke about the Muskogee coming from the west of the Mississippi, coming into the east.
But interesting. This is all good. So either way, though, back to the petition. You know what I'm saying? People can go research everything you just heard tonight in the conversation. That's how you got to do it. That's how it got to work. But this is a good conversation for the panel discussion real quick. But Issa, you back in here. Did you hear the petition part? Did you miss anything? You had technical difficulties?
I missed about 10 minutes of it, but I already signed the petition. I'm hip to it.
Okay, bet. So you down with the move for the misclassification of the people who have indigenous roots that look like they call the Negro or African colored people.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
The right to self-identify is a part of your indigenous rights and also is part of your human rights. Um, and the books I put together, I addressed that in there for individuals who wanted to do it individually. But
Right.
the strongest thing to do is when you come together as a tribe of people,
Mm-hmm.
a collective group of families that come together to do it as a nation. That's when you actually have the protections and power behind it as a body politic. You know what I mean?
Body politic. Yeah.
Yeah.
Since you brought that up real quick, I want to ask you this because I had you on here before. If you joined us, you know what I mean? Because y'all two, obviously had differences on certain topics before in time. You know what I mean? See how we all gentlemen now at the dinner table having this conversation in there, right? That's cool. At the same time, in this conversation, it's when you, not ish, I'm looking at the whole thing like, all right, as you did a book, and when you came on here on our podcast before, and we introduced that you promoting your book and everything you're doing, dealing with Aboriginal Indigenous law. Does it have an aspect to ecclesiastical law connection to any of this situation, just off of your perspective?
Nah, I don't. The only thing that would intersect with ecclesiastical law is if you have documents like a baptism certificate.
Okay.
And if your baptism certificate had your parents' race on it,
okay,
as an American Indian or something like that, that could be used for identification purposes because in most states they allow you to use a baptismal certificate as a second proof of ID.
Oh, interesting. You said that. That's a jewel you dropped. Now, at the same time, that's the way ecclesiastical, like you said, someone born through that particular church or temple or synagogue that can issue baptismal certificates like the Nation of Islam, who people that be born through the Nation of Islam because they were born into it, right? And then now they're baptismal from that temple, correct? And now they're underneath that nation because that's their identification, born into it, correct? Right? It's like Mormons and some of the people might call. I ain't gonna do it. I ain't gonna do it. But you see what I'm going. Am I wrong?
Yeah.
Same.
You have the Native American Church.
Right.
The Native American Church, even though it uses the name church, it's actually a religious system that's part of developed by Native Americans. You know what I mean? So they use as a sacrament, they use peyote and things of that nature, and they're allowed to by law. They're allowed to use it, right? So it uses the name church, but it has its own particular type of spirituality connected to it,
Okay. So since I see this is going good. Wait, TurtleGang, you there, brother? Peace to you. You there? You hear me?
Yeah.
In this conversation of the petition and everything, as you said earlier, that your family, your genealogy, the Lenape are the kind of the first groups that this narrative of the Hebrew Israelite came amongst them. You know what I'm saying? And how it was pushed upon them, right? Prior to them even, having any.
That was just a document
them,
I could reference. That's just a document I could reference. I'm sure they referred to all the groups at different points in time. Like I don't want to create an argument like we were the first that they called that. I'm just saying that's the first I have documented.
No, I'm not saying you saying that. No, I'm not saying you saying that. I'm just saying the document that you even referenced does play a part in understanding that the Lenape Turtle Clan, right? You Turtle Clan,
Tammany.
Tammany.
No, Chief Tammany is a chief. Chief Tammany is a Wunami chief. I'm Muncie. We're different groups.
I'm sorry. My bad.
But I mean, we're all Lenape people, but we're different groups. We have different dialects and everything, different politics.
Right.
Yeah,
I do.
So Chief Tammany was a different area than me. Close,
okay,
but not.
So,
no. Yeah.
But is he of the Turtle Clan? Is that correct? What they say in history about Chief Tammany being of the Turtle Clan with William Penn and all that from your narrative? But you're in the area.
The Wunami are considered the Turtle Clan. The Wunami, the Muncie, which I would be, we're considered Wolf Clan. But to understand clan systems, that would be a whole nother show to understand a clan system. You know what I mean? Like, it's so much to it. It ain't like, I'll give you an example. If you only receive your clanship through your mother, right? So if you're born into a tribe, but your mother's not from that tribe, you don't belong to that clan.
Right.
So even though your tribe is Turtle Clan, you might not be Turtle Clan because your father was Turtle, your mother was Seneca. So even though you grow up Turtle Clan, so we have terms like I follow the ways of the turtle. So I am a Muncie who follows the ways of the turtle. See what I'm
Like how you
saying?
broke that down. Yeah, that's real. That's real. Yeah, and because the reason why I'm asking that, because William Penn though, with Tammany, they say did a treaty with the wampum belt and the culture over there and everything, right? And that's dealing with the conversation that brings a cultural exchange of two different groups of people. And then the discrimination thing, you just brought up earlier, like the narrative, these people are dark-skinned people on both sides. You know what I'm saying? Not saying that William Penn particularly is a dark-skinned person, but somehow or another, I want to just ask you that question. In this because your family is, or that group of people, Iroquois in that area dealing with the Philadelphia and everything, is connected to a mixture of people mixing and how they're being discriminated, as you have already said. So with this petition,
Well, no, I'm not Iroquois. I'm not Iroquois.
And I got something else to say too, dealing with Andrew Jackson, right? Dealing with the Battle of New Orleans. Dealing with the Battle of New Orleans, which wasn't actually in New Orleans, was outside of New Orleans. It was right there in Chalmette, which is right there in the 9th Ward. What wound up happening is that the Americans in it was fighting the British, okay, because the British in them wanted the waterways, okay? It wasn't the French, it was the British, all right? So what happened is that Andrew Jackson also sent the letter to Spain to have ships to come to Louisiana to help them fight against the British. See, that's another thing that they're not talking about. And if you ever wants to come down here to New Orleans, I can show you where the shit took place at, because it's right down the street from my fucking house. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, that was a strategic move that he did when he actually signed with the motherfucking Spanish to fight against the British.
Okay. And we have to do another panel discussion on this, y'all, tonight. I ain't gonna hold everybody all night. I know it's one of them weekends. I thank TurtleGang for coming with us tonight. Rob, everybody, I think overall is based off this particular part of the conversation, the topics I wanted you to present are saying that they've heard of it. You've obviously presented to each, and obviously Rob, the links in the chat. Anybody that's in the chat that hasn't heard of it, the petition is there. Ish, I'm non-biased. You feel me? I give you my real on it. You know what I mean? We got the word autonomous there, so I'm not selling for the oppressor to give me something. You get where I'm going? I sound like Malcolm when I said that, right? I'm just saying, I'm not expecting them to do something for me, but I ain't hating on the populists making acknowledgement of what's taking place within the system that we're in. Do you understand what I mean by that?
Yes, indeed. Full agreement.
I don't want nobody to get me twisted. Like, we can't be the autonomous party if we don't put that in there. You know what I mean? That I ain't trying to be content for anything that these people that are not even acknowledging who we are in the first place to give me anything. That's why when I heard it's going to be a fight, I agree with that. Okay, this is going to, these things they even brought up, that Paul brought up, are going to be, you know what I mean, can be brought to the table in this fight. You know what I mean? So all these narratives need to be thought of. You know what I mean? Also the 14th Amendment citizen part, the free like in the freedmen, in the ADOS who might have an issue with the fact that now people like us are acknowledging ourselves as Aboriginal indigenous people to the land and making claims like this, dealing with, you know what I mean? What's going on? You already know that's a fight. You know what I mean? Even amongst our own people. Do you agree with that, Ish? That's
Restoration
amongst our own people.
Restoration is not reparations. I'm going for restoration.
Okay.
It's the difference.
I agree with you.
I also have an inherent right to the land. I don't know, if they're using terms like black is going to instantly tie you to Africa or being of African descent. So, I support them in their, in their quest.
I got you. So is the request of the what's the name of it? Say the name of the society one more time that's behind this petition. Initially, you
Urban,
got behind it.
the Urban Indian Heritage Society.
And they're looking for restoration, not reparations, what you're saying.
That's
Basically.
correct.
That's the terminology that should be used, you're saying, live on this podcast, correct?
Yes, we're dealing with restoration, not reparations.
All right. Now, it's a big claim being made. You know what I mean? It's a large account on that petition that y'all calling for. You heard me? But at the same time, bro, hey, I ain't hating no hate, bro. Misclassified, I can't say we're not. You know what I mean? I can't go like I'll be hated. That's a hated move. You know what I mean? Now, how the politics works, everybody got their moves. Like how Pa I know do his thing, TurtleGang got his thing, you know what I mean? But at the same time, we acknowledge that part. We definitely have been misclassified. So as an Aboriginal people on this weekend, I ain't no hater, you know what I mean? We got to
Yeah,
get that right.
we did that prerequisite of, if you've ever been told, anybody in your family ever said, you got Indian in your family, or if you ever, if you have that documented history that you do have an Indian heritage, this is what's going to be dealing with it. If you have that, there's some elements that don't, and that's perfectly fine. We encourage people to look for their lineage no matter where it goes to. You may come and find out that you came off of this slave boat at this area. We're here to support you and help you find your lineage and to make sure that you are able to be, in your fullest self. So we're just about finding your family lineage, tying you to that, and moving out on that. And this particular film is the misclassification.
Yeah, so can I ask this for the last group? For this is my last question for the night before we get out of here. And I want to ask each of y'all on the panel this last part. Since he came, I segued that. I be playing basketball. You like I be giving me alley oops and shit. I'm come back like, you know what I mean? So in this situation, what he just said. So if there is a person in your genealogy that has a European or African outside the Aboriginal mixture we're talking about tonight that was here prior to, because of the Spanish, the French, or even the 13 colonies that are prior to the American colony that was established in 1776. In today's time, 400 or 500 years after that, are these people or not indigenous with their mixtures to the Americas? I want to ask each one of you that question, and then we can come around. So if I can start, because you just got to talk to Ish, I'm going to go to Rob, then I'm going to TurtleGang, then Pa, then Issa, then back to Ish. So Rob, what you think about that?
Well, I think a lot of people, when they do start doing that genealogy, are going to find different people. You know what I mean? Unless your whole family and everybody in both sides of your family all came from one place. Because I could say for myself, my family is spread out. You know what I mean? As a matter of fact, I know my great grandmother is a white woman. I know her. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So it's like you're gonna find. I think you're gonna find a lot of things. But you do have to have that genealogy, that lineage check, because even if they was talking about ADOS, they ain't getting nothing until you can prove that you were from slaves for real. A lot of these people calling themselves descendants of slaves, and they folks weren't even slaves.
Right.
You know what I mean? Everybody's gonna have to do your lineage check to really get to who you really are, and you may find a foreign group of folks, and you probably gonna find some indigenous people. I don't think it's nothing to be ashamed of. You know what I'm saying? I don't think it's anything wrong with that. You are who you are. You know what I mean? How you gonna be mad about that?
I am who I am, right? Yeah.
But for the people with actual indigenous lineage, with actual indigenous lineage, there's a lot. We're owed a lot. I'll just say like that. They'll never be able to pay the right tab. But hey man, it's time to start running the tab up though. So Ish, I most definitely die. As a matter of fact, like I said earlier, when I saw that on your group, I guess it was like a month or two ago, I automatically put it up on my page like, yo, support Ish. You know what I mean? Yo, I'm down with it. You know what I mean? I love that.
I appreciate that, brother. We truly
from
do.
Day one, autonomous party, same thing I told you, bro.
All right, man. Listen, man. Hey, I'm a Malcolm in this situation. I'm not gonna ever go against the brother and what he's doing to get us recognized. I just have my autonomy. Like I heard Issa say about the move that he's talking about. I think that's the move better suited for us to really get the full autonomy. You know what I mean? The recognition within the system is one thing, you know what I mean? But the autonomy is another thing, in my opinion. And restoration, in my opinion, is going to be tied to our autonomous move within our own networks of what we're doing to really get that full assessment. I think both sides work if you're using this will of autonomy to get in these situations to do what you need to do on behalf of who you say you are. And self-determination comes involved with that. So just if you think you're just going to get it politically by voting, like how people have been voting for Trump in different situations and different, you know what I mean? If we argue about within the system right now, then I think we're waiting. And if we're waiting, we're not doing. And if we're not moving and thinking governmental in that manner on a national level amongst our self-identified people today with our networks in different regions, then goddamn it, what we doing? That's my move on that. You know what I mean? But I'm not, again, hating on anybody that's trying to recognize their genealogy from being discriminated on who their real nationalities are. You know what I'm saying? You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, shit.
It's my turn.
Just to put that out there. No, wait, no, it's a turn. No, wait, I'm skipping. It's turtle time. Turtle, what you thought about that part?
Can you just rephrase
the question?
Yeah, let me just
my fault. I'm sorry. All right, so when it comes to the 15th century of European and what they call African people that might have migrated here to wherever situations and mixed in with the Aboriginal cultures of the Americas, but prior to 1776, meaning before the American colonies got their independence and did their own thing from the 13 colonies, you know what I mean? Are these people now with their mixtures, Creole, hybrid, mulatto people living in these different areas of free people of color narratives, are they not indigenous to America today based off how long they've been here and the cultures they're mixed with?
All right, so all right, so when we're talking about indigenous nations, right? Everyone from that nation may not be of indigenous ancestry. We're talking about a nation or communities, right? So you're going to have different genetics coming in and out of those communities because that's just life, right? So this is why we got to get away from the European blood quorum. That's what determines who you are. Because in these indigenous communities that we all are trying to connect back with, what made you a part of the community wasn't whether or not you just had the blood in it, but did you partake in the culture? Did you live in the community? Right? So these are the things that for my people, what would make you Lenape wouldn't just be your bloodline. Like what makes me a New Yorker ain't just be like, because I live here. And anybody that comes and lives here after 30, 40 years after you get into the culture, you're going to be a New Yorker too. And everything that is available to me is going to be available to you. So rather than get caught up in the different ancestries that make us, people need to start using genealogy to pinpoint the communities you came from, because those communities will reflect a greater community. So when we start tracing ourselves back, yeah, you do your family history, but your family history is going to tie you to a community, right? It might be called a homestead in your old family writings. What's the old family homestead? That's going to be the last place where your family was like a nuclear group. When you can get back to that, you can attach yourself to the greater community, which would be the nation, right? So in the process of gaining our power back, we need to be taking care of every step. So the initial step is to galvanize your family, re-educate your family, put your family in a position to where they are recognized and identified as who they are properly, right? And then create some wealth.
Right.
Once you do these things, like what Ish is doing to get people recognized, I applaud that. My family and myself, we've made tremendous historical contributions to our community, to Red Bank, New Jersey, to Monmouth County, historical.
Right.
So we're going to stand on that and go to the people and say, we need some plaques on these walls. We need some things to recognize that our people helped build these places. That church, that church, that church, that church, that hall, that this. We built these things. The ground, the roads, we paved them. My grandfathers paved them. We need that to be documented in town history. Oh, and we Lenape. See what I'm saying?
That's real.
So now we're establishing ourselves in our communities, reestablishing ourselves in our communities. We're also doing things to create businesses, to create wealth. Now, as we continue to grow all our families, then we in a position to now reunite as nations, and we're not coming back as beggar nations. Now we're coming back as nations that are empowered. And that's how we can start putting ourselves on an equal footing with the United States. We don't have, we don't have to get rid of the United States. We got to get equal to them so we can do business with them fairly. We suffer because we have not been able to do business with them fairly because we've been stripped of our national identity, which gives us the ability to deal with them fairly. So if as individuals, we got to build ourselves up. So getting recognition, if you can get reparations, whatever you can get to build your family up is a part of it. Once you do that, you move to the next step. And so I applaud what's going on. I applaud everybody playing their role. You know what I mean? But yeah, these are the things that need to be done. I don't know if I answered the question.
No, you did. You did, actually. For me, I think you hit a lot of different angles. I feel the same way you feel. I really, sentimentally, if I might disagree with you on different things on Facebook, I'll tell you tonight, I agree with what you just said wholeheartedly. Like, that's the aspect of it. You know what I mean? I think we have the different levels of it. And if it's different, like, you know what I mean? You doing what you do in your area, plus you look at the biggest, you know what I mean, micro, macro. And then we got to look at all the steps. And that's how it's going to work for us to network and build wealth within our nationalities, human rights, and different things like that. So I appreciate your aspect on that. And Issa, what you thought before we slide to Chito?
Yeah, there's a lot of different points that everybody's been hitting on. As far as indigenous international law says, anybody who was here before the colonizers came here, you're indigenous. That would include anyone who even was kidnapped and put in slavery before 1776. Florida didn't become part of the United States until I think it was 1850 or 1843, somewhere around there. Florida wasn't part of the United States; it was a recent thing. So that's another dimension to it. As far as what Brother Ish was saying regarding Andrew Jackson, he was an illegitimate president according to their constitution. He wasn't supposed to be president. He was a foreigner. Add on to what TurtleGang was saying, that goes into a whole discussion whether or not you're seeking to be a federally recognized tribe, state recognized tribe, the steps to go about doing that, or if you want to just be an internationally recognized tribe. One of the tribes out there in North Carolina, I think it's the Lumbee tribe, they've been going back and forth with the BI for over 100 years. But they decided, as the current circumstances, they've been doing their own thing as the Lumbee tribe. You know what I mean? So
there's many groups like that.
Exactly. So it like he said, your individual self, your family, and tribes are made up of families, different clans that came together. They form a tribe and form a nation. One of the things I gotta add, just a clarification on some things, is a lot of these tribes that are federally recognized now, these tribes, these are like corporate entities. You know what I mean? They became corporations per se to conduct business affairs for their tribe. And a lot of them tribes, they set up their own rules for membership. So I'm gonna give you an example. What TurtleGang was saying. He said it's not just bloodline per se, but also you could be adopted into a tribe. Some tribes do that because you live amongst them, you adopted the culture, the ways, may be married in. But another thing is when you're dealing with a lot of these tribes, I'm gonna give you a perfect example. The Muskogee Creek Nation of Oklahoma. Muskogee Creek Nation, Oklahoma, the history is very deep because there was a civil war within the Muskogee Creek Nation of Oklahoma. Between Upper Creeks and the Lower Creeks. They got down with the Civil War. Each one chose a side. In 1866, when they signed the treaty, they brought back the Lower Creeks back into the Creek Nation, right? What you saw happen in after 1865 with the freed slaves, what they called the freed slaves in 1865, Emancipation Proclamation, Reconstruction, then Jim Crow era, you have a similar set of circumstances that happened with the Creek Nation as well, when after the 1866 treaty, they established a constitution that reflected American Constitution, United States Constitution, and then they opted to add an amendment to go back and verify. They use the words verify who was already on those lists of people as members of the tribe. 100 years later, in 1979, they kicked out who they called the freedmen, and they based it off what they call the Dawes Road. I say all this to say that today, there's people who are blood descendants of the Creeks, blood descendants on record, but because the way they established their tribal operations, they don't, unless you put an application in and be a member of that tribe, they won't recognize you as a member of that tribe, even though your whole family came from that tribe on record.
That's real. That's real.
Yeah.
And even Maroon, exiled on their own land, by the way.
Can I add something to that?
As Ish is pointing out. Go ahead.
Okay, so that's absolutely true. Like what I think people need to start understanding is that putting that focus on any tribe that has a Dawes roll means that they signed an agreement with the United States government. So what you're looking at is a sinking ship. Why anybody would want to get on it, I don't understand. And it's rigged. It's rigged. That's what the blood quorum was about. It was rigging it so that they could breed the native out of you, right? That's why they kept setting it up, because they knew in generations this child was going to go from being full-blooded, as they would say, to 1/8. And at a certain point, now they're no longer that. So now all the laws don't apply. So that's booby trap. Like, people keep thinking, oh, I found my family's name on the door. And here's another thing. I don't know about y'all family, but my grandmother had 16 kids, right? Those 16 kids had their own distinct families. We're all family.
That's how a tree works.
Right? But or even better yet, my grandfather didn't get along with his brother. My grandfather had, like I said, him and my grandmother had 16 kids. His brother had 12 kids. We didn't get along for years because those two didn't get along. Whatever agreement my grandfather would have signed would have only covered his direct descendants.
Facts.
The other ones wouldn't have. So when you got Cherokee, when you got these different, they say the 5 civilized tribes, no, those were specific family groups from those tribes who made agreements. And guess what? If that shit ain't hanging on your wall and you're not still living in a reservation and you're not still actively in that, you probably never was a part of it. Even if your ancestors' names appeared on it, because many of the ancestors said, I ain't moving out there. I'm going to stay where I'm at. So now you could look up your stuff on the list and say, there go my great-great-great-grandfather. Yeah, but he didn't accept the deal. So he can't, y'all not covered, right?
You ain't in the contract.
Yeah, you ain't in the contract. And then in the contract, and you fall out of it for 2 generations, they don't have to grant it to you. Now, this is what it's really all about. Federally recognized nations are only about money. The only difference between a federally recognized nation and a non-fed is that the federally recognized nations get money. So if they're allotted money, right? Not casino money where they generate it, they're allotted money. If they're allotted money and if there's 1,000 of them and they get $1 million, they don't need 20,000 motherfuckers. They want to keep it at 1,000. This shit is only about money. Like the federally, they're not any more Indian than anyone else. They're just the group that agreed. And the ones they agreed, they moved out west and they sat them around a bunch of white people. And now they look European. And half of them on those reservations don't even get checks. Don't get it fucked up. Because a lot of them have bled out, meaning that they're more European than they are native. And based on their laws, they don't even get checks. This shit is not what people think. Like, they need to stop thinking that these Dawes lists was something that you want to find yourself on.
And you know
Yeah,
what? I
real
was
talk.
about to touch. I was about to look. I was gonna bring it home right after that because I'm the last one, right?
Yeah,
But
you're the
the
last one
thing
on this
is,
one.
yeah, I'm the last one on this one. And see, what most people don't understand is that those treaties that was done in the 1865, right, after the so-called Civil War, right. What most people don't know that those treaties was called the Reconstruction treaties that was done by Albert Pike. Okay, that what most people don't know. And if you know about General Albert Pike, you know that he was also a third degree Mason. And he was also the Grand Commander of the Confederate Army. Okay, so dealing with that, with the 5 civilized tribes, right? What most people don't understand is that those Indians that signed the treaties were not pale faced. They look just like you and I in the 1865. They didn't become whitewashed until the 1890s. That's when they became whitewashed. Right? So now you got to look at it. So now, not only did you have the Dawes rolls, but you had about 6 other rolls that was after that, like the Miller's roll and many others, etc. You know what I'm saying? So dealing with that, once again, just like Cousin Norris had said, that basically is hush money dealing with the BIA, which nothing but the Federal War Department. You know, that's what the Department of the Bureau of Indian Affairs was nothing but the War Department. You see, and they was the ones that actually allotted the land, because after that, they was the ones that took the land and put it in the trust, and now those Indian lands became known as fucking national parks. Oh, did I say something? Did I say something?
Stop there. We're gonna leave right there. Time out. All right, so look. Hey, I appreciate everybody from vibing with us tonight. You heard me. We over the time limit. You know what I'm saying? Join us for our next Aboriginal discussion with all our different guests that comes and vibe with us. You heard? We're gonna drop some more things. I mean, I think you need to tap into each one of these members that joined us tonight and what they've been doing in their regional areas. And at the same time, don't hate. If you don't participate, be quiet and just do your thizzle. You know what I mean? If not, push and involve and promote whatever you see going on between these different individuals and their collectives, and they keep it moving. You know what I'm saying? Because it's not the time to hate, as I heard in the beginning, even with Malcolm saying African, right? He said some shit, right? That's why I started with him, because even though we're not saying African today, we could have our different perspectives, but still be knowing what we got to do for the misclassified thing that we all have in common. You know what I mean? So when people are doing what they're doing, if it's different narratives of how they're going about it, we still shouldn't be fighting about it. We should be unifying about it. And on an indigenous people holiday type of vibe. You heard me? You know what I mean?
Oh,
Shout
I
out to
want
all
to
the
say one more
Aboriginal
thing.
Maroon people.
I want to say one more thing about the trading
Yeah.
expeditions. We actually had canoes that we had dug out that was 100 yards.
Yeah, I heard.
Yeah, we
I
had
heard about that.
canoes that was 100 yards, and we bought things over to Africa and bought things from Africa back over here. And not only did we trade food, but we trade by fucking as well. So,
Lord.
yeah. That
Hey,
wasn't the
don't
only
get
thing that
into
was
that. Hey,
being
look,
traded.
don't get into that shit, because you're gonna spend some stuff. They're gonna say you on some freaky dicky. You heard what they was doing with the voting fucking thing, right? That voting fucking thing, and people was mad at Kanye West about the White Lives Matter, but we ain't mad about the voting and fucking thing. Don't get me started tonight. I ain't got time. We gotta go. I'm gonna see y'all. Tap in with us each and every
Y'all
Sunday.
have a
You
good
heard
one,
me? I ain't
yo.
got time. No, I appreciate y'all.
Fuck with your
Real.
boy,
Thank y'all
man.
for
Fuck with
vibing
your
with me
boy. I
tonight,
holla
man.
at you.
Thank y'all for all the panel guests. You know what I mean? Everybody in the chat, you know what I'm saying? Each and every Sunday, 8 to 11 o'clock, we went over tonight. It's a special edition. And all the guests that came here, and TurtleGang, once again, I think we clear up things when we get to talk, you know what I'm saying? And I think that's what the narrative be about. I agree with a lot of things you're saying, brother. And I preach to you and your family what y'all got going on. And at the same time, the Moorish thing is what, in the Hebrew thing, I ain't knocking any of those mixtures that came in any of the situations that happened, right? Even if the European situation happened, right? But the Aboriginal thing leads. So that can't be whitewashed by our own people now, knowing that all these different people are colored people, but still have their cultures and respect each culture and the diversity of their mixtures, how they came in. And as Issa, I think, said, they would be indigenous based off of law between if you were here before 1776. You know what I mean? And if anybody can go against that part, if we can all agree with that part, then we got more in common than we think in the 21st century, rather than fight in the 21st century over these things. Did anybody disagree with that before we leave?
I want to thank everybody for participating and just coming in the right spirit and sharing their perspective. It's always good to be able to learn the nuances of what goes on within the other tribes. And I just want to thank everybody for sharing their information. I learned a lot. So thank you, each and every one of y'all.
Peace.
Same here. I appreciate everybody.
Absolutely.
Turtle?
Thank you for having me tonight. It was a pleasure, brother. I didn't mean to rush up on you, you know what I mean? But I definitely want to be a part of the conversation. And I said thank you for having me, bro.
I appreciate you. I'm gonna reach out to you.
Yeah,
Hey,
good addition.
Pa,
Thank you for joining us, brother.
Pa, what's up, man? Before you slide, you in the zoo, in
Man,
the
look,
jungle.
you know me. You know me. I put it in a peace pipe. You heard me?
Put it in there, then. Do what you
I
gotta
put it
do.
in
You
a
heard
peace
me?
pipe. Because motherfucker don't want to see that axe in that tree. Leave that part alone.
Lord, red
Good to
sticking them,
see you
huh?
again, brother Chito. I haven't seen you in a while,
Red
but it's good
sticking
to
them.
see you, family. Peace and blessings.
Listen,
Likewise,
man.
likewise. Same to you, man.
Listen. What's up with you?
Restorative justice, man. Everybody whose family's from here, you have equity in the land. You're owed restorative justice, man. That's all I got to say. Peace. Thanks for
Real
everybody
talk.
being here. Thanks for having me part of the conversation.
I appreciate everybody. I'm gonna bring y'all back. I'm gonna invite y'all all back when we do another discussion, and we have different topics that we can bring our sources. If you have sources, you want to present them. We're gonna be open about it, non-biased. I don't want an echo chamber. I want everybody from the different cultures to put in because this is a culture exchange right now in the 21st century, and that's how it's gonna allow us to be autonomous. You know what I mean? Because we're all in different areas and we're coming from different perspectives, but we understand this in common, and that's why I love this kind of conversation tonight, y'all. So peace, love, and
Man, I
happiness, as
want,
they
I
would
want,
say
I
it.
want to see the
Peace.
Confederation. I want to see the Confederation get back together. You know,
Okay,
get
now you
those nations
talking.
from under. Because a matter of fact, dealing with the United States, man,
Don't
look,
get
it's the
started,
weekend
Pa.
for me.
Pa,
It's
Pa.
the
Don't do it,
weekend
man.
for
Don't
me.
do it. You know, Pa.
You
Pa,
know
people
me,
got carnivals
because
going
in the
on. People got,
Constitution,
no,
because
man,
you
no,
know,
Pa. Don't get started,
Oh
Pa.
shit.
Pa. Pa. Don't do it. Leave it alone. You gotta
Thank
leave
you,
it
brother
alone
all
Mac.
right,
tonight,
we go
man.
we gonna
Peace,
save
y'all.
it. We gonna save it for next
All right,
time. We
man.
gonna save
Next
it for
time.
part
Next
two.
time,
Come
man.
back for part
Peace,
two.
y'all.
All right,
All right, y'all. Y'all have a good night.
all right.
Tap in
Y'all
with us
have a
next
good
week.
All
one,
right,
man.
brother.
Sunday. You
All right,
already know
Peace,
what
one.
it
fellas.
is. Peace,
Peace.
y'all. Through the campaign. The harsh
Peace.
reality is live life always. And the autonomous way, you heard me. The harsh reality is live life autonomously. You know what I mean? It's been a good night. And we out of here. Check us next week. We got a long week. A couple weeks with October. So tap in with us, you know what I mean? Check out what we got going on. Peace and love.